Chapter 932. Where is it? Xiao Shui asked. Mu Yu stretched out 2 fingers and a formation pattern appeared on his fingertip. It's in my hands. In your hands? Xiao Shui jumped to the windowsill and shook Mu Yu's hand. No. Mu Yu patted Xiao Shui's head and said, What I mean is, I need to personally carve these 3 formation marks. Xiao Shui suddenly understood and said with dissatisfaction, Who did it? You need someone to do it personally. How is this solving a puzzle? It's simply messing around. Mu Yu shook his head. This is a formation deduction ability. It should be to protect some secret. Without a certain level of formation skills, it's impossible to discover it. He once again seriously tried to figure out the 6 formation marks that he had already drawn. The formation patterns inside were all recorded in his mind. He spent another 2 hours to deduce and then said, The way to break the combination formation should be to complete the missing formation patterns. These 6 formation marks are all incomplete. Mu Yu walked over to the array imprint on the windowsill. The array imprint looked like it had many complex spiritual power engravings, but in fact it was still missing several lines. Only by outlining these lines could the array imprint be activated. This was not a problem for Mu Yu. He quickly calculated that there were a total of 12 spirit patterns missing on the windowsill. He then used his own spirit power to draw the missing lines. After completing the missing spirit patterns, the entire formation mark suddenly emitted a white light. Then, the mark turned into an 8 trigram. The yin and yang in the 8 trigram slowly rotated. It's effective, Xiao Shui said in surprise. Next, Mu Yu completed the remaining 5 seals. Different seals had different amounts of spirit power engravings. Some only lacked 1 spirit power engraving, while others lacked 120 spirit power engravings. If one didn't have a certain level of formation skills, it would be impossible to complete the formation marks. After the 6 array formation marks were completed, it was time to think about the remaining 3. At this time, Mu Yu already knew how to carve the remaining 3 array formation marks. He moved away the messy shelves. Unlike the previous 6 array imprints, the remaining 3 array imprints were not engraved on the ground, walls, or ceiling. Instead, they were engraved in the void. Mu Yu determined the precise position of the 3 formation marks in the air. This position could not be sloppy. If it was off by even a millimeter, the formation marks would not be activated. He had already memorized the formation patterns of the remaining 3 formation marks. Even so, after he finished carving the first formation mark, 6 hours had already passed. What a troublesome thing! What kind of secret needs to be covered by such a complicated formation mark? After carving the first formation mark, Mu Yu was also a little tired. This method was indeed torturous. Xiao Shui was half lying on the windowsill with his little legs crossed. He was eating something in his mouth. He was bored to death as he flipped through an old book and said, Maybe there is a lot of food hidden inside. If anyone is so bored that they would spend so much effort to hide food, I will definitely fight them to the death. Mu Yu rested for a moment and continued carving the second formation mark. I can do this to protect food. Xiao Shui said indifferently. Do you think everyone is like you? Mu Yu said in a bad mood. After the third formation mark was carved, a day had already passed. However, such a long time did not go to waste. A total of 9 formation marks emitted a white light. When Mu Yu activated the last array formation mark, the 9 array formation marks suddenly emitted a bright light from each of them. It was as if something couldn't wait to break free from the array formation marks. Then, the light slanted and the light gathered in the center of the room. Then, a ripple appeared in the center and the shadow of a tree emerged. Heavenly Demon Tree. It's actually a formation left behind by Old Dad. Mu Yu looked at the celestial demon tree that suddenly appeared in the middle of the house. The celestial demon tree was covered with white celestial demon fruits that were trembling slightly. There was a door on the trunk, exactly the same as the celestial demon tree in the valley. Old man Kumu is really bored. Why does he have to make things so troublesome for his own things? Xiao Shui muttered. Stop talking nonsense. Old Dad must have his own reasons for doing this. Hurry up and come over. Mu Yu walked over and pushed open the door of the heavenly demon tree. Inside was a world of white light. Mu Yu stepped in. This time, he came to a bright space. There was nothing here except for the ancient teleportation formation. Then, a voice echoed in this space. I don't know who you are, but since you have found this place, it means that your talent in formations is enough to take over the ancient teleportation formation. The Pill Cauldron sect finally has a decent junior. You did not disappoint me. Ku Mu's youthful appearance slowly appeared from the ancient teleportation formation. Oh my god, I see old Dad again. Mu Yu quickly jumped toward the teleportation formation. Although he knew that this was just an image left by Deadwood Daddy, he still felt very close to it. Unfortunately, Kumu, who was standing in the ancient teleportation formation, did not seem to appreciate it. He only looked coldly at Mu Yu. He never smiled at strangers, even if it was an outstanding junior of the Pill Cauldron sect. There's nothing to eat. I'm a little disappointed. Xiao Shui looked around and yawned. Kumu continued, I thought about it again and decided to preserve the knowledge of the ancient teleportation formation in this way. If you can't solve my formation, then you don't have the qualifications to study the ancient teleportation formation. Mu Yu shrugged. Although it took him a lot of time to complete the 9 formation marks, he did not refute his father's words. This was because the complexity of the ancient teleportation formation was definitely much more complicated than the combination formation outside. If there was no way to solve the combination formation, then it was indeed impossible to understand such a profound and obscure thing as the ancient teleportation formation. This was also a test, but it was not difficult for Mu Yu. I will teach you all the knowledge I have researched. How much you can learn will depend on your own luck. The Pill Cauldron sect's formation inheritance is a very profound knowledge. It is different from the Formation Glyph sect's formation inheritance. The Formation Glyph sect's formation inheritance is all-encompassing, but the Formation Master's formation skills are mostly focused on offense. The Pill Cauldron sect's formation skills are mainly focused on defense, not offense. This is caused by the different cultivation philosophies of the two identities. Mu Yu nodded thoughtfully. Apart from some defensive formations, the Formation Glyph sect's formation skills were mostly focused on offense. Whether it was Lu Xianshir's Thunder Snake Swift Shadow or Zhuge Xiaoxing's Qianli Holy Seal of Nothingness, their explosive power was very strong. It was very difficult for cultivators of the same level to resist. This was also the characteristic of the Formation Glyph sect's formation skills. After all, alchemists only refined elixirs and took elixirs to achieve various purposes. Alchemists were not suitable for fighting and had low combat power. In the past, alchemists needed to use formation skills to protect themselves, so formation skills were more focused on defense. It was a pity that there were too few people in the Pill Cauldron sect who could take into account both alchemy and formation skills. In a sense, to become an alchemist, one needed a specific talent. Next was the ability to use and distinguish herbs, as well as the ability to control elixir fire. These conditions were very harsh. To become an alchemist, one needed a brain with a very strong logic and perception ability. No matter how difficult the formation skills were, they were all deduced from a small 8 trigrams. From there, they could transform into thousands of illusions and achieve different effects. These all needed to be quickly deduced in the mind. People without deduction ability could not become an alchemist. People in the Pill Cauldron sect not only had the talent of an alchemist, but also had the powerful deduction ability of an alchemist. So far, such people were too few. The Dead Tree and Mu Yu were rare existences. It was just that even the Dead Tree and Mu Yu were not pure alchemists. The dead tree deliberately did not want to become an alchemist, and Mu Yu was influenced by the dead tree to have no interest in alchemy. Instead, he was more interested in extorting alchemists. The dead tree slowly walked down from the ancient teleportation array. The teleportation array beside him quickly shrank and floated in the air. It moved to the front of the dead tree, and the array pattern on it quickly lit up. It was exactly the same as the teleportation array Mu Yu saw in the cave. Because of the lack of ability in formation skills, the alchemists of the Pill Cauldron sect are more willing to spend their energy on how to refine elixirs. For the Pill Cauldron sect, this is very sad. You being able to come here shows that you have the characteristics of both an alchemist and an alchemist. You are barely qualified, the dead tree said indifferently. Mu Yu was helpless. Coming here, in the eyes of the dead tree, he was only barely qualified. In any case, no matter how powerful a genius was, it was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the dead tree. This was because the dead tree himself was a genius. A proud genius like the dead tree would not praise other geniuses. The ancient teleportation array uses the power of nature. If you don't understand what the power of nature is, then go back and think about it before coming back. The ancient teleportation array has a name. It is called the void array. The formation of the void array is also based on the 8 trigrams. It will be the most complicated array you have ever seen. I don't expect you to be able to learn it in one go. If you can't keep up with my explanation, then you need to go back and study the array books again. The dead tree's expression was very impatient. With his character, he would not waste time on explaining things that seemed very simple. My God, with your temper, it would be strange if those alchemists could learn it. Mu Yu shook his head. The alchemists of the Pill Cauldron sect did not even know the basic array technique. How could they expect them to understand the power of nature? When he first learned the power of nature, he was confused. Using the power of nature as the base of an array, even the innate array masters of the array faction might not be able to do it, let alone other alchemists. He suddenly realized that it was a miracle that he could learn the complicated array techniques of Deadwood Daddy. The dead tree slowly waved his hand, and the void array in front of his chest changed again, emitting a golden light. Chapter 933. The Secret of the Ancient Teleportation Array? Mu Yu's interest was immediately piqued. He specialized in studying ancient teleportation arrays, so it would be best if he could learn the secret of the ancient teleportation array. The shrunken ancient teleportation array in front of Deadwood trembled slightly and emitted 8 rays of light that streaked in 8 directions. These 8 rays of light transformed into 8 other identical void arrays in the air. The ancient teleportation array of the Danding sect was set up in the early days of the sect. Even I don't know its exact history, but I can tell you that this is a powerful spatial teleportation array. Its power is beyond our imagination. With it, you can travel to other worlds. It's no longer limited to the 3rd heaven, but can travel from the 1st heaven to the 9th heaven. What? Mu Yu was stunned. The ancient teleportation array of the Danding sect could travel from the 1st heaven to the 9th heaven? The only other world Mu Yu had been to so far was the 2nd heaven, which was once ruled by the White Ape Demon King. At that time, he had used this ancient teleportation array. He also thought that this teleportation array was specially used to travel to the 2nd heaven, but he didn't expect Deadwood Daddy to tell him such a shocking secret. The ancient teleportation array of the Danding sect actually had such an ability? This news was so shocking that even Mu Yu didn't expect it. Mu Yu's heart suddenly became heated. He was currently only in the 3rd heaven. What about the 4th heaven, 5th heaven, and even the 9th heaven? What would these worlds be like? The 9 void arrays in front of Deadwood began to rotate, emitting rays of light that connected with each other as if they were sensing each other. The chaotic yin and yang suddenly appeared in the air and drilled into one of the void arrays. Then, they disappeared without a trace and drilled out of another void array, going back and forth repeatedly. I know you'll find it hard to believe. When I first started studying this ancient teleportation array, I was also shocked when I discovered that it had such an ability. This means that our knowledge is no longer limited to the third heaven. A grave expression appeared on Ku Mu's face. He waved his hand again, and the chaotic yin and yang revolved around his fingertip. These were De and De Bai from the ruins cauldron. They were merely illusions created by Ku Mu through his spell formation. The world we live in is called the third heaven. There are actually many secrets in this world that have yet to be discovered. Whether it's the third heaven in your impression, the 8 gates, or the end of the continent where the demon clan lives, they are just the tip of the iceberg of this world. Therefore, cultivators are insignificant, and alchemists are the weakest among cultivators. As a member of the Danding School, you must always remember this point. Don't think that just because you know how to refine pills, no one will dare to mess with you. Many times, staying alive is the most important thing. Ku Mu's gaze fell on Mu Yu. There was a trace of disdain in his eyes. He regarded Mu Yu as an alchemist of the Danding sect. He was quite dissatisfied with the current situation of the alchemist. Mu Yu felt uncomfortable being stared at. He muttered, "I'm not a weak alchemist." When alchemists walked in the cultivation world, all cultivators would show them some respect. Therefore, alchemists themselves would develop an inexplicable sense of superiority. This sense of superiority was what Ku Mu despised the most. It was because alchemists' life-saving means were too weak. I think you might have been to the second heaven. The second heaven and the third heaven used to be similar worlds. However, the second layer of heaven was destroyed 5,000 years ago. What you need to understand is that the second layer of heaven was not weaker than the third layer of heaven in the past. However, there was a powerful existence that erased this world and turned it into a barren land. If these powerful existences can erase the second heaven, they can naturally erase the third heaven. Therefore, as an alchemist, don't be complacent just because you can obtain temporary benefit. Once the third heaven encounters the same predicament as the second heaven, no matter how powerful an alchemist is, it will be useless. When Ku Mu talked about the current situation of alchemists, his expression was very dissatisfied. Only when a person had a long-term vision would they feel how small and ridiculous the circle they were in was. Those powerful existences that erased the second heaven came from other worlds. The races of other worlds are far more powerful than our third heaven. I'm telling you this because I want you to avoid being short-sighted. Don't limit your vision to the third heaven. The strength of the races of other worlds is far beyond what you can imagine. You may not necessarily run into races from other worlds in your lifetime, but you will definitely run into cultivators with sinister minds. Some cultivators will not care about your identity and will kill you first to rob you of your belongings. What you can do is to work hard to learn array techniques so that you can have the ability to protect yourself. The waves will wash away the sand. Only a stone that is heavy enough can stand more steadily. It was rare for Ku Mu to speak with such a sincere and heartfelt tone. He wanted to let the younger generation of the Danding School realize their own insignificance through the powerful existences of other worlds, so that they would understand the necessity of learning array techniques. They shouldn't always have a sense of superiority when their own strength was so weak that they couldn't beat anyone. "Dad, I'm really surprised to hear this kind of teaching from you." Mu Yu smiled. Deadwood Daddy used to teach Mu Yu, mainly scolded him. He wouldn't talk about any major principles. This was the first time that Mu Yu heard Deadwood Daddy speak such philosophical words. However, it turned out that Deadwood Daddy was right. The Danding School's status was revered and respected by everyone in the cultivation world. However, no matter how powerful the alchemists were, if the third heaven wanted to destroy the Danding School, it would only take a few words. The alchemists didn't have the ability to protect themselves. Not to mention the third heaven, Even if any of the 8 sects wanted to attack the Danding School, the Danding School wouldn't be able to resist. Deadwood continued, more than 3,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Danding School agreed to let the other sects study the secrets of the second heaven together. Therefore, every once in a while, the void array would be opened and the nascent soul stage cultivators of each sect would be transported to the second heaven. The void array is a channel that connects each world. Therefore, there isn't just one void array, but 9. There is one in each world. Different array patterns can activate the incantation to go to different world. A single void array could allow people to travel to any world at will. The secret of the Danding School was indeed deeply hidden. Of course, the demon race also has a teleportation array. However, the demon race's teleportation array was set up by the seniors of our Danding School under certain conditions 10,000 years ago. It can only travel between the second heaven and the third heaven. It doesn't have the ability to go to other worlds. Moreover, the drawbacks are very big. When Deadwood talked about the demon race's teleportation array, his face showed a trace of disdain. However, don't be happy too early. The ancient teleportation array of our Danding School is very old. In addition, there is no one to maintain it and the array patterns are missing. There are problems with the teleportation array to other world. Therefore, it can only go to 2 worlds now. Deadwood's words didn't surprise Muyu. He knew that things weren't that simple. The void array can now go to the second heaven. Needless to say, you should know that. The other one is to the 4th heaven. Deadwood looked dignified. He frowned and said, "The way to the 4th heaven was originally fixed by me. I also figured out the incantation to activate the array pattern. However, later I found that the 4th heaven was too dangerous. Moreover, that world was quite strange. Some things were too powerful. If those races came to our 3rd heaven, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, I sealed it and didn't let the teleportation array connect. Before you have the strength of the great vehicle stage, don't think about how to go to the 4th heaven." Xiao Shui asked in surprise, "So, Deadwood has been to the 4th heaven?" Muyu nodded thoughtfully. Deadwood Daddy was really a person who hid his strength. He suddenly remembered those flesh-winged horned monsters who claimed to be from the Moon Clan. Could it be that the Moon Clan was a race in the 4th heaven? It's okay. Anyway, I don't plan to go to other worlds to play now. I haven't defeated the 3rd heaven and resurrected you. There's no rush. Muyu put aside the thoughts about the Moon Clan in his mind. He didn't regret that the passage to the 4th heaven was sealed. There were still a lot of things to do in the 3rd heaven. How could he have the time to care about the 4th heaven? Besides, the purpose of him coming here to learn about the teleportation array was to learn how to use the Pill Cauldron Sect's method of crushing the jade pendant to leave. It was to save those people that Muyu thought were worth saving. Deadwood said, "If you have been to the space of the ruins cauldron, you should understand that it is an independent space. It is similar to the simple heaven and earth sleeve formation. However, the heaven and earth sleeve formation can be easily opened by others and can't accommodate living things. However, the space created by the void array can. Next, I will explain to you about the various array patterns of the void array. Whether you can learn it or not depends on your comprehension ability." Deadwood began to explain the structure of the void array and the principles of every array pattern he had researched. The way the void array was set up was too different from the way it was set up now. It couldn't be understood with the current knowledge of array technique. In particular, there were 81 inscriptions that needed to be understood by oneself. Combining the inscriptions with the array patterns was quite complicated. As it turned out, it was impossible for ordinary people to keep up with Kumu's thinking. Because Kumu himself was a genius, he always explained things according to his own standard. Many things that he thought were very simple were troublesome, and he just skimmed over them. Just like when Deadwood was writing the book Xian Array, Muyu couldn't understand many of the array techniques in the beginning. It wasn't suitable for novices to learn. Mu Yu also went to the array sect to learn the basic array techniques systematically before he slowly understood the profound meaning of Xian array. Father, it's lucky that it's me. There's probably no one in this world who can follow your thinking. Mu Yu kept muttering in his heart. Luckily, Mu Yu's talent in deducing array techniques wasn't weaker than Deadwood's, so it didn't take much effort. Mu Yu took less time than Deadwood when he climbed the sky stairway. That was also his first time climbing the sky stairway without learning the innate array technique. What was certain was that Deadwood definitely went to the array sect to find the array heavenly Tao to study the sky stairway after he learned it. Otherwise, the array heavenly Tao wouldn't let an outsider try it. Chapter 934. Mu Yu spent about 10 days under Ku Mu's difficult explanation before he finally understood the basic structure of the void formation. This process was very difficult because Ku Mu hadn't completely figured out the exact structure of the void formation. Thus, Mu Yu was only able to learn a rough. However, Mu Yu finally obtained what he wanted, which was to create a teleportation jade pendant similar to the one he used to travel to the second heaven. He modified his own spell formation insignia, and the heavy responsibility of being a test subject fell on Xiao Shuai's shoulders again. You won't squeeze my butt this time, right? Xiao Shuai, Little Black, and Little White ran around in circles. This time, it was Big Black and Big White's turn to maintain the operation of the ruins opening cauldron. No, don't worry about my spell formation, Mu Yu vowed solemnly. Xiao Shuai's face was filled with disbelief. The teleportation spell formation flashed, and Xiao Shuai screamed again. He angrily bit Mu Yu's finger, leaving behind 2 small holes. I made a mistake, I'll modify it again, Mu Yu promised as he shook his finger in pain. I don't want to be a test subject anymore. Xiao Shuai yelled. If you succeed, I'll let you name this spell formation, okay? Mu Yu asked. Xiao Shuai thought for a moment. Then I want to call this spell formation the Commander Teleportation Spell Formation. Mu Yu felt a headache coming on. Can't you change it to something more domineering? Then let's call it the Brave and Invincible Commander Teleportation Spell Formation. Okay. Commander Teleportation Spell Formation it is. After being bitten by Xiao Shuai 7 or 8 times, Xiao Shuai finally stopped groaning in pain. Mu Yu's Commander Teleportation Spell Formation was also beginning to take shape. It could be used to teleport anyone with a spell formation insignia without any hindrance. Your spell formation insignia requires spiritual power to operate. What about those mortals? Xiao Shuai asked. I'll use the same method as the void array. I'll make the array imprint into a jade pendant. Just smash the jade pendant. Mu Yu pondered for a moment. Jade pendants were very common, so he could ask Taoist Cloudcore for help. He didn't need to make the jade pendant very beautiful. He only needed a simple jade stone. Then, he would engrave his array formation mark on it and leave it for those who truly needed to be saved. He had already memorized all of Deadwood Daddy's teachings and understood how to maintain and use the void array. He then left the Sutra Pavilion and checked the teleportation array in the cave. He found some flaws and repaired it. In the past 10 days, Mu Yu discovered the power of the Danding Sex spell formation. He originally thought that it would be difficult for the Danding sect to recover after being almost razed to the ground. However, when Mu Yu understood the void array, he discovered that the void array was the core of all of the Danding sect's spell formations. Mu Yu found Taoist Cloudpill. Taoist Cloudpill seemed to have stopped rebuilding the Pill Cauldron sect for the past few days. Instead, he had been waiting for Mu Yu. The moment he saw Mu Yu, he immediately came to greet him. Mu Yu, have you learned the spell formation to restore the Danding sect's mountain range? Taoist Cloudcore asked hopefully. Martial Uncle, I do know how to restore the Pill Cauldron sect's mountain range. all of the pill cauldron sex formations are controlled by ancient teleportation formations. Father Deadwood mentioned this in the instructions he left for me. What? Junior apprentice Brother Deadwood already discovered this spell formation? Taoist Cloudcore was overjoyed. Helion Kong coldly snorted from the side. The more I think about Deadwood Evergreen, the more disappointed I am in you all. Such a genius was ruined by you all. Bastards! Fortunately, Deadwood Evergreen left behind an outstanding disciple. Otherwise, the Danding sect would have been destroyed by your generation. Yes, ancestors' teachings are correct. Taoist Cloudcore's face was full of guilt. In fact, don't blame Deadwood Daddy for not telling you. Without a certain level of skill in spell formations, it would be useless to tell you. You wouldn't be able to use it. In short, I will help you restore the Danding sect's terrain. Mu Yu said. Then I'll have to trouble you. Taoist Cloudcore gratefully said. The Danding sect's terrain was protected by spell formations. Every major mountain peak had a revolving core spirit restoring array that had been passed down since ancient times. It was only because of the passage of time that the spell formation had lost its effectiveness. What Mu Yu needed to do was to restore the revolving core spirit restoring array deep underground. The base of the revolving core spirit restoring array is a 5th level revolving core. You should be able to refine this pill, right? Mu Yu asked. The Danding sect was once a combination of pills and spell formations. Thus, their unique spell formation used pills as the base of the spell formation. The revolving core was a type of pill that could gather the world's spiritual energy. It could form a cyclone of spiritual energy and gather it together, providing spiritual energy as support for the spell formation. Taoist Cloudcore was stunned for a moment. Then, he said, 5th level revolving core? We always thought that pill was useless, so no one refined it. The revolving core's only function was to form a cyclone of spiritual energy. However, because the Danding sect had abandoned spell formations, the revolving core had become useless. Forming a cyclone of spiritual energy between heaven and earth didn't have much use. This was because the cyclone of spiritual energy would become violent and restless, making it difficult to absorb and refine. No one would do such a thankless task. If you haven't refined it, then hurry up and refine it. You didn't know how to use it before, but you still don't know how to use it now? Helion Kong scolded. Yes. Taoist Cloudcore quickly responded. Fortunately, the revolving core was a 5th level pill. Refining a 5th level pill wasn't difficult at all. Soon, he issued an order for all the 5th level alchemists of the Danding sect to put down their work and refine as many 5th level revolving cores as possible. Mu Yu had originally thought of using other spell formations as a replacement, but because the revolving core spirit restoring array was passed down from ancient times, it recorded the characteristics of the ancient Danding sect's terrain. Thus, it was impossible to change it. During this time, Mu Yu also asked Taoist Cloudcore to help him obtain as many jade stones as possible. He needed to create enough commander summoning arrays to save the people he wanted to save. The entire Danding sect began to move. Mu Yu returned to the opening cauldron and continued to cultivate. His current cultivation was only at the 9th stage of the body integration stage. He had to break through to the transcending tribulation stage as soon as possible. Even now, Mu Yu wasn't able to completely understand the secrets of the opening cauldron. This was because the owner of the opening cauldron was Deadwood Daddy, not him. He had only temporarily obtained the help of Big Black and Big White. Even so, Big Black and Big White had still helped him create a suitable cultivation environment. Mu Yu had already experienced what it meant to be in the transcending tribulation stage when his body had been invaded by the power of slaughter. In the process of cultivation, every time a cultivator broke through to a new realm, they needed to break through the barriers of their own body and temper their meridians. This was the first step. But the transcending tribulation stage was a bit special. In addition to increasing the strength of one's own body, one also needed to cross their own heart tribulation. This was the second step. The higher one's cultivation was, the greater the strength they had to withstand. If a person's heart wasn't firm enough, they wouldn't be able to withstand a powerful strength and would easily be swallowed up by their own strength. Therefore, in order to control strength, one must first cross their heart tribulation. The first step had never been difficult for Muyu. This was because he was a cultivation genius. His unique single-attribute constitution allowed him to cultivate without any barriers. As long as the time was right, he would be able to quickly break through. This single-attribute constitution was very powerful during cultivation and could withstand any strength that exceeded the strength of one's own body. For example, the power of slaughter couldn't be withstood in the body of any other cultivator. Only Muyu and the other four could do it. However, people with single-attribute constitutions couldn't survive. So far, only Muyu, his 3 apprentice brothers, and Xiao Shui had such constitutions. They were lucky, but they also had to bear their own responsibilities. However, at the second step, even if Muyu relied on the strength of his own body to use the power of the transcending tribulation stage, he still couldn't be considered a true transcending tribulation stage cultivator because he hadn't crossed his heart tribulation. Transcending tribulation meant that one had crossed their heart tribulation and reached a higher realm. In the end, many people couldn't cross some hurdles in their hearts and couldn't control more powerful strength, which led to them losing themselves. It was only now that Muyu understood why his control over the power of slaughter was not as good as Priest Yumeng's. It was because his heart was rejecting this power, so he was unable to fully unleash its power. However, now that Muyu had sealed his power of slaughter, his cultivation had returned to the 9th level of the combination stage. He had to find his own strength to cross his heart tribulation and become a true transcending tribulation stage cultivator. "What's your heart tribulation?" Little Shui asked curiously. Muyu thought for a moment and said seriously, "Little Shui, I'm now entangled by a heart tribulation, so I can't break through to the transcending tribulation stage. Only you can help me." "Really? Your heart tribulation has something to do with me? Tell me, is it because I'm too handsome and affect your performance, or is it because I'm too smart and make you feel ashamed? If it's because of this, then I can't help." Little Shui sat on Big Black's back with his chest puffed out and spread out his hands regretfully. Muyu resisted the urge to beat this guy up and said, "It's about the commander summoning array. Can we change its name? This name makes me feel like I'm facing a demon tribulation. I can't die in peace if I can't get rid of it." "No problem, then we'll change it to the brave and invincible little commander array," Little Shui said without hesitation. Muyu sighed. It seemed that it was impossible to change the name now. If he changed the name without permission, Little Shui would bite him every day and fight him to the death. Everyone's heart tribulation was different. Because everyone had different experiences, the things that troubled them were also different. If one wanted to cross their heart tribulation, they had to face themselves and use their true self to control the power of the transcending tribulation stage. It didn't matter if the real him was selfish, cruel, or kind, honest, or tenacious. Only by knowing what kind of person he was would he be able to better control his power. After thinking for 3 days in the open ruins cauldron, Muyu knew what his heart tribulation was. He also knew how to get rid of it. After slaughtering 100,000 people in Dongsha City, he had been troubled by what kind of person he wanted to be. In the past, when he had just left Flowing Water Village, he had promised Grandpa Village Chief that he would be a good immortal master and fight against Yumeng to prove his identity as a human. But now, he had directly slaughtered 100,000 people, breaking his promise. He did not dare to face the village chief. This was his mental tribulation. He was Jian Yingchen Feng's disciple. Jian Ingchen Feng wanted to save everyone in the third layer of heaven. He did not want to follow his master's path, so he could not get over his own responsibility. This was his heart tribulation. When he was in the Mu Manor, he was the older brother of Mu Hao and Mu Xan. The two children had always treated him as a hero of the human race. Mu Xian was young and did not know anything, but Mu Hao was different. Now, he did not want to see Mu Hao because he believed that his actions would make Mu Hao despise him. He was afraid that he was not a good brother. This was his heart tribulation. Chapter 935. A heart tribulation was a hurdle that a person could not overcome. Mu Yu felt guilty towards many people. For example, he felt guilty towards Deadwood Daddy's death, the death of the old mayor and Xian Jingtong's family, and his master's disappearance. However, Mu Yu had always worked hard to resurrect these people, so these were not considered his heart tribulation. Back in Clearwater City, Jupiter had allowed Mu Yu to find himself. He understood that he had to be a person who lived for himself, and he also understood that he had to be a person with a clear conscience, as his master often said. Therefore, he did not think that he had let down his master's expectations. With his master's personality, he would not blame him, so he could overcome his master's heart tribulation. However, what he did not know was how Grandpa Village Chief and Mu Yu would see him. He needed to tell them the truth and let them understand what kind of person Mu Yu was today. Only then could he overcome his two heart tribulations. However, Mu Yu had never been able to clearly explain to Tianran. He had wanted to find Tianran for a long time, but he was afraid that Tianran would not forgive him. He had an unclear relationship with Xiao Shui, but he had neglected Tianran. Tianran did not even understand what had happened to him in the past few years. Mu Yu also did not understand how Tianran was doing. All of these things troubled Mu Yu. If he wanted to overcome his heart tribulation, he had to face the knot in his heart and see what kind of person he was. Mu Yu had the power of slaughter, but this wasn't what he wanted, so he couldn't fully utilize it. He needed to let those who didn't want to face him understand who he was and what kind of person he was. Only then could he grasp the power that belonged to him, and not purely rely on the power of slaughter that was rejected by others. So, you're going to find the old faker, Sister Tianran and Brother Blockhead? Little Shui asked after hearing Mu Yu's words. Mu Yu nodded. Oh my God! Don't you feel any guilt towards me? You use me as an experiment every day and use me as a shield. You even despise me. Am I not important to you? I'm not even qualified to be a heart tribulation in your heart? You make me feel very sad. I treat you as one of my own, but you don't value me. Are you still human? He's worse than a beast. Little Handsome said indignantly. Stop fooling around. Let's go out and buy you some candied haws and roast duck. That's more like it. All right, I'll take it that I've survived this calamity. Mu Yu left the opening ruin furnace and went to find Taoist Cloudpill. Taoist Cloudpill had already ordered people to purchase a massive pile of jade for Mu Yu. He had also called upon every 5th-level alchemist in the Pill Cauldron faction to collectively refine a 5th-level revolving pill. No one dared to slack off. You want to leave the Danding sect? When will he be back? Taoist Cloudcore immediately asked. I'll be back in 2 or 3 days. You can stay here and refine the revolving pills. I've calculated that you'll need at least several million revolving pills because this array formation is massive. Mu Yu explained. Taoist Cloudpill was very worried about Mu Yu's departure. This was because he was worried that the Threefold Palace would once again attack the Pill Cauldron faction. Now that Mu Yu was the backbone of the resistance against the Threefold Palace, he felt that he had no one to rely on. But Mu Yu had told him that the opening ruin furnace was still operating and protecting the entire Pill Cauldron faction. Thus, the Threefold Palace's people were unable to enter. What he needed to worry about were the other crossing tribulation masters that were controlled by the threefold palace. Don't worry, our pill cauldron faction has already been sealed off. Even if a disciple goes out to purchase alchemy materials, they will have to be personally verified by Master Uncle Yuan Hua. Taoist Cloudpill said. But at this moment, a panicked voice suddenly sounded out. Sect Master Uncle Mu Yu, it's not good. My master is missing. Kai Lai anxiously ran in. Junior apprentice brother medicine master is missing? Haven't you been guarding him all this time? Taoist Cloudpill was also startled. They now knew that Yao Wuji's actions that day were all for the sake of the Pill Cauldron faction. Thus, they had been waiting for Yao Wuji to wake up and apologize to him. But they hadn't thought that Yao Wuji would suddenly disappear. These past few days, I saw that everyone was refining revolving pills, so I went to take care of Master. I didn't think that after I left for a while, Master would suddenly disappear. Kai Lai's heart was filled with regret. On that day, he had said such cruel and disgraceful words to his master, saying that his master was a coward who was afraid of death. It was only in the end that he finally understood why his master had done such a thing. He had stayed by his master's side all this time, hoping that when his master woke up, he could confess to him. But now, Grandmaster Alchemist had disappeared. Mu Yu, help me find Master, Kai Lai anxiously said. Don't worry, I'll go take a look. Mu Yu went to the opening ruin furnace and used its aura to search the entire Pill Cauldron faction. Then, he shook his head and said, Grandmaster Alchemist is not in the Pill Cauldron faction. Not in the Pill Cauldron faction? How could that be? Kai Lai anxiously cried out. Mu Yu was silent for a moment. Then, he said, I think that Grandmaster Alchemist doesn't want to face you, doesn't want to face me? Kai Lai was startled. When you said those words in front of everyone, you made a decision that was completely different from Grandmaster Alchemist. You chose to face death with a sense of righteousness, but his choice made him seem like a coward who was afraid of death. Before he fainted, he said to me that he was proud of you. I'm afraid that you would look down on him, so he didn't want to face you. Mu Yu slowly said. A master and a disciple had made two completely different choices. The disciple had bravely sacrificed himself, but the master had been a coward who was afraid of death. The impression that Grandmaster Alchemist had left in everyone's eyes was that he was a coward who was incompetent. He was afraid that he would be spurned by others, and he was even more afraid that he wouldn't be able to face his disciple. He had endured the humiliation and carried the infamy. However, in the end, he hadn't accomplished anything. There was no way for him to clear his name in front of others. He felt that if he stayed in the Pill Cauldron faction, he would only be mocked by others. He was also afraid that he would bring unnecessary trouble to Kai Lai, so he chose to leave. No. I let Master down. I'm an ignorant bastard. I don't have the face to see him. Kai Lai fiercely slapped himself in the face. No, I have to find Master. I have to find Master. I have to tell Master that he's not a coward who's afraid of death. I'm the bastard. What did I do that day? Kai Lai's heart was already in a mess. He hurriedly ran towards the exit of the Pill Cauldron faction. He wanted to find his master and apologize to him in person. Kai Lai, wait a moment. Do you know where Junior Brother Alchemist went? Taoist Cloudpill quickly stopped Kai Lai. Kai Lai's entire body was trembling. His eyes were red and tears were already flowing down. I don't know, but I have to find Master. No matter where he is, I have to find him. I have to kowtow and apologize to him. He's the greatest person in the world, and I'm just a bastard. The one who should be guilty is me, not him, not him. Kai Lai clenched his fist. His fingernails were already deeply embedded in his flesh. His heart was filled with endless regret. Thinking back to how he had said those ignorant and heartless words to his master, he felt that he was the biggest idiot in the world. He didn't even understand his master's good intentions. When would he be able to take charge? Don't be anxious. The Pill Cauldron faction is currently heavily guarded. There's only one entrance, and it's guarded by Martial Uncle Yuan Hua. Ask him, Taoist Cloudpill said. Everyone immediately walked towards the exit. Taoist Yuan Hua was personally guarding the exit. He was checking the identities of the disciples entering and leaving. What? Limitless left? I didn't pay attention. I only paid attention to the people that came in. I didn't pay attention to the disciples that left. Taoist Yuan Hua was shocked. These days, in order to refine the revolving pills, many disciples had been sent out to purchase the materials needed to refine the 5th-level revolving pills. Because Pill Cauldron faction had sent out their own people, Taoist Yuan Hua hadn't paid attention to them. You little bastard, I told you to guard the door, but where did you go? Helian Kong also knew about Wuji's matter and immediately cursed. Taoist Yuan Hua's face was filled with guilt. Ancestral Master, please calm your anger. I have neglected my duty. Then why haven't you sent people out to search? Helian Kong reprimanded. Yes, I will immediately send people out to search. Taoist Yuan Hua quickly said. Kai Lai, think about it carefully. Where does Junior Brother Alchemist usually go? The world of cultivation is so vast, and we need to refine the 5th-level revolving pills. We don't have enough manpower, so we can't search for a needle in a haystack. Think about where your master goes. We will search for him with a goal in mind. Taoist Cloudpill patiently said. No need. If Grandmaster Alchemist didn't want to see Kai Lai, then he wouldn't have let Kai Lai find him. He also wouldn't have gone to any of the places that Kai Lai knows. Mu Yu said. Then what do we do? Helian Kong asked. Kai Lai also raised his head and looked at Mu Yu anxiously. Mu Yu, I beg you. You must have a way to find my master, right? Go and bring Shi Dengtian with you. Mu Yu said. Bring Shi Dengtian with us? Everyone was stunned. They didn't understand Mu Yu's decision. Why would he bring Shi Dengtian with him at this time? As Kai Lai thought of Shi Dengtian, his face twisted. For the past several days, he had been restraining himself from killing Shi Dengtian. He didn't want to kill the instigator of Grandmaster Alchemist's humiliation. He wanted his master to personally kill Shi Dengtian and wash away his humiliation. But Grandmaster Alchemist had chosen to leave without saying goodbye. What do you want with him? Kai Lai angrily asked. Shi Dengtian's cultivation had been wasted by Mu Yu, and he had been controlled by a divine soul array. Even if he wanted to die, he couldn't. Mu Yu had even sent people to watch over him. Don't you want Grandmaster Alchemist to personally kill your enemy? Mu Yu asked. Actually, the one who wanted to kill Shi Dengtian the most was Mu Yu. This was because Deadwood Daddy had broken the rules of the Threefold Palace because he had been controlled by a slave pill. Moreover, there weren't many people in the Danding sect who could refine slave pills. This slave pill had been refined by Shi Dengtian and given to Tian Buli. This was all information that Mu Yu had obtained from Shi Dengtian after interrogating him. However, Mu Yu thought of Grandmaster Alchemist. Back then, Grandmaster Alchemist had groveled in front of Shi Dengtian in order to act as a controlled person. He had been extremely humiliated, doing things that were not in line with Grandmaster Alchemist's original character. Grandmaster Alchemist's heart was also filled with hatred for Shi Dengtian. Mu Yu admired Grandmaster Alchemist's character, so he wanted Grandmaster Alchemist to personally wash away his humiliation. Personally kill my enemy. Mu Yu, you know where my master is? Kai Lai raised his head in surprise. Chapter 936. Shi Dengtian never thought that he would have such a day. His heart was already filled with despair, and he wanted to commit suicide. However, his life no longer belonged to him. Mu Yu and Kai Lai left the Pill Cauldron sect. Shi Dengtian was now a cripple. Being tied up by Mu Yu, he couldn't do anything. He used to flaunt his prowess in the Pill Cauldron sect and wanted to kill Taoist Yundan and the others. At that time, he never thought that he would fall to such a state. Is my master really in the Array sect? Kai Lai asked anxiously. He will go to two places. One is the Array sect and the other is the valley where my father is. I believe that he will first go to the Array sect to pick up Taoist Yuanda before going to the valley to be taken care of by Taoist Yuanda's daughter. Grandmaster Yao is worried about Taoist Yuanda. Mu Yu said. Taoist Yuanda had lost his memories. In order to not be discovered by the people of the Triple Palace, he stayed in the Array sect. However, Taoist Yuanda had almost killed Zhuge Shaosheng. Because of Mu Yu, the people of the Array sect wouldn't harm Taoist Yuanda. However, they also wouldn't treat Taoist Yuanda with respect. Grandmaster Yao knew about this matter. He understood this and didn't want Taoist Yuanda to be looked down upon by the people of the Array sect. The Triple Palace is unforgivable. Kai Lai gritted his teeth and said. It was because of the existence of the Triple Palace that the Pill Cauldron sect was almost destroyed. The Triple Palace is no longer the same as it was in the past. The current Triple Palace is a dirty organization. Mu Yu said. Kai Lai glanced at Shi Dengtian behind him. Recalling that Shi Dengtian was a dog controlled by the Triple Palace, he felt even more resentment towards Shi Dengtian. Mu Yu spent half a day with Kai Lai before arriving at the Array sect. He entered the Array sect with ease. He didn't even use the door. As the master of the Array sect, the Array sect's array formations couldn't stop him. The moment Mu Yu returned, Zhuge Shaosheng had already sensed it. He quickly appeared in front of Mu Yu. Mu Yu, who are they? Zhuge Shaosheng asked when he saw Kai Lai and Shi Dengtian. Sect Master, did the Medicine Master come here? Mu Yu asked. An impatient expression appeared on Ellie's face. Master Medicine came an hour ago and is currently taking care of Taoist Yuanda in the Array Hall. He said that he wants to take Taoist Yuanda away. Zhuge Shaosheng replied. Master, he's really here. Kai Lai's heart was already pounding. Headmaster, sorry to trouble you. Mu Yu nodded at Zhuge Shaosheng. Then, he turned into a beam of light and rushed towards the Hall of Arrays with Kai Lai. Below the Array Hall, there was a separate room that was specially set aside for Taoist Yuanda. The current Taoist Yuanda looked very dispirited. Not only did he lose his memories, he also seemed to have lost his mind. He curled up in a corner and kept shouting, I am not a coward. Master Alchemist's face was a little pale. The injuries on his body had yet to fully recover. When he saw Taoist Yuanda's current state, he felt a sense of loss in his heart. Martial uncle, you are not a coward. Master Alchemist helped Taoist Yuanda to sit on the bed. With a haggard face, he helped Taoist Yuanda to straighten out his dirty clothes. Now, there's only the two of us left. Master Alchemist revealed a sad smile. You are not a coward. However, I became a coward for once. Master Alchemist sighed. In fact, he had already woken up yesterday. However, when he saw Kai Lai by his side, he remembered that he and Kai Lai had done different things. When he thought of what Kai Lai had said to him, he felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Therefore, he did not open his eyes. He waited until Kai Lai left before he chose to sneak away. Martial uncle, junior apprentice sister refused to forgive you. I was also afraid that Kai Lai would not forgive me. Master Alchemist smiled bitterly. Kai Lai had chosen to sacrifice himself for the sake of Pill Cauldron sect. However, he had knelt at Shi Dengtian's feet in front of everyone. He had become a greedy and cowardly master. However, Kai Lai was right. I am very happy that at that moment, he was the first person to stand up. He had courage, and the determination to sacrifice himself for Pill Cauldron sect. Such an outstanding child should not have a cowardly master. Master Alchemist's eyes showed a trace of gloominess. Even if Master Alchemist knew that everything he did was for the sake of Pill Cauldron sect, he had still knelt down in front of everyone that day. Even if he had to endure the humiliation, it still left an impression on everyone in Pill Cauldron sect that he was a coward. Now that Pill Cauldron sect had passed through this crisis, Kai Lai would receive everyone's attention. Master Alchemist did not want to disturb Kai Lai. He was afraid that his existence would bring shame to Kai Lai. I did not know how to explain it to Kai Lai. I also did not know if Kai Lai would believe me. I thought that quietly leaving Pill Cauldron sect was the best choice. Now that he is grown up, I do not need to worry about him all day. He can take care of himself. I can also rest assured. Master Alchemist revealed a gratified smile. However, there was also a trace of sadness in his heart. Kai Lai's future was destined to be glorious. It was inevitable that he would surpass Master Alchemist in the future. Master Alchemist did not want his existence to make things difficult for Kai Lai. As long as Master Alchemist was in Pill Cauldron sect, it would be like reminding everyone that Kai Lai's master was a coward. Master Alchemist did not want his disciple to be branded with such a mark. After I leave Pill Cauldron sect, everyone will gradually forget about my existence and forget about this matter. That child Kai Lai will not always be criticized behind his back. His talent in the future will cover up this stain. This is the only thing I can do for Kai Lai. Master Alchemist shook his head. His eyes were blurred and lost. However, he also felt incomparably proud. This was because Kai Lai had remembered everything he said in his heart and carried it out without hesitation. As a master, the proudest thing of his disciple was to have such a performance. Master Alchemist, do you want to see junior apprentice Sister Shui? Yao Wuji asked. When Taoist Yuanda heard the two words Shui, his eyes suddenly became flustered. Shui, don't. I am not a coward. I am not a coward. Forgive me. Forgive me. Master Alchemist, you are not a coward. You are not a coward. Master Alchemist quickly patted Taoist Yuanda's back and coaxed him like a child. Although this matter is not your fault, junior apprentice Sister Shui is not willing to forgive you. I am also worried that Kai Lai will not forgive me. He will think that I am a disgrace to him as a master. It's not like that, Master. It's not like that. Kai Lai shouted loudly. Master Alchemist's body shook violently. He raised his head and saw Kai Lai's regretful and joyful expression. He suddenly did not know what to do. Kai Lai. Master Alchemist muttered. Put on. Kai Lai suddenly knelt down and kowtowed to Master Alchemist. Master, I am a bastard. I am the one who should be begging for your forgiveness. I am the coward. Kai Lai kept kowtowing. He did not use any spirit energy to protect his body. His forehead was already bleeding and his tears were already flowing. I am ignorant. Mu told me everything. I should not have spoken to you like that. I am sorry. I am a bastard. Kai Lai was extremely remorseful. He thought that his master had changed and took things for granted, saying such heartless words to his master. Now that he thought about it, he was filled with regret. How could it be so easy to sever all ties with his master? But Master Alchemist held Kai Lai's shoulder tightly, not letting him kowtow again. Don't be like this. I am no longer your master. Master Alchemist did not look at Kai Lai's eyes. His eyes were red, but he held back his tears. I am sorry. I am sorry. I know that I am not a qualified disciple. I am a bastard disciple. Master, forgive me. Forgive me. Kai Lai gave himself a few slaps. Master Alchemist quickly grabbed Kai Lai's hand. Stop. Don't hurt yourself anymore. Master Alchemist's whole body was trembling. He finally could not hold it in. Tears flowed down his old face. I don't want you to get hurt. Do you understand? Master, I am sorry. Give me a chance to redeem myself. Let me continue to be your disciple. I promise that I will never do anything stupid again. I want to make up for everything. Master Alchemist smiled bitterly. I am a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death. Do you still think of me as your master? Master, I know the truth now. You're a great person, and I'm just an impulsive and self-righteous bastard. I know that I am too stupid and did not understand you. I have let you down. I am afraid that you will not forgive me. Let me make up for everything. I will never be a bastard again. I will listen to everything Master says. I don't want to lose you. Kai Lai held on to Master Alchemist's hand tightly. You're a good child, but I'm not a good master. My existence will cause you to be poked at behind your back and even make you a laughing stock. Master, no matter what others think of me, I don't care. My brother and I lost our parents when we were young. You took me in like a father and taught me how to be a person. I am not afraid of being mocked because as a disciple, I will never despise my own master. Not understanding my own master's good intentions is the most worthy of being mocked. Kai Lai gritted his teeth. Master Alchemist closed his eyes and wiped away his tears. He sighed. Do you know? Your opinion of me is more important than anyone else. I am very happy that you believe in me. I am really happy. Mu Yu sat on the ground outside the room. He leaned against the wall and stared at the ceiling in a daze. He did not go in because he knew that there was no need for him to be there. That place belonged to Kai Lai and Master Alchemist. He did not need to interfere. However, he could hear the voices inside. Just like a father? Mu Yu's heart felt as if it had been struck by someone. Kai Lai's words of father had caused him to feel an indescribable pain. He held the jade pendant in his hand. Inside it was the person who was extremely important to him. Kai Lai's words brought Mu Yu back to that rainy day with thunder and lightning. He would never forget that day. That day, Deadwood was lying in his arms, dying. He hoped that Mu Yu would call him father, but he was also afraid that he did not have the qualifications to be Mu Yu's father. He was worried that Mu Yu would mock him because Deadwood was not sure if Mu Yu would treat him as his father. However, Mu Yu would not mock Deadwood. How could he mock Deadwood? Just like how Kai Lai told Master Alchemist that he did not care about what others thought of him. He only wanted to be Master Alchemist's disciple. Mu Yu also wanted to be Deadwood Daddy's son. That day, he cried and told Deadwood, "That's right. As a son, I will never mock my father." Mu Yu's heart was trembling. His entire body was trembling. The thunderstorm took away Deadwood Daddy, took away Mu Yu's father, who used his life to protect him. Only Mu Yu was left with endless grief. He had been working hard to revive Deadwood Daddy and make it up to Deadwood Daddy. He wanted Deadwood Daddy to live for him once. Then, he would truly call Deadwood Daddy his father. He had been working hard. Chapter 937. Mu Yu and Little Shuai sat outside and waited until Master Pharmacist and Kai Lai came out. Master Pharmacist, Mu Yu stood up and said with a smile. He tried his best to calm his heart and make himself look normal. Master Pharmacist looked at Mu Yu and said gratefully, "Mu Yu, thank you. No need. Deadwood Daddy's ruins cauldron saved the Danding sect." Mu Yu patted Little Shuai's head. Little Shuai yawned. Master Pharmacist sighed in nostalgia. Kai Lai told me about senior brother Kumu. We didn't know that he had done so much for the Danding school. He was a great man. Master Pharmacist, you are also a great person, Mu Yu said. Master Pharmacist shook his head. I can't compare to Deadwood. There are many types of great people. Taoist Cloudcore and the others would rather die than submit. Elder Deadwood's silent sacrifice is another type. You are also a type of person who has to endure humiliation, Mu Yu said. Little Shuai asked curiously, "Then what about you, Mu Yu? Why do I feel that you are not great after all you have done?" Master Pharmacist smiled. Little kid, Mu Yu dared to fight against evil, saved people from danger, valued friendship, and never gave up on his goal. That is great. Do you understand? Little Shuai blinked and said, My goal is to eat all the delicacies in the world. I have never given up on my goal. Is that great? Mu Yu flicked Little Shuai's head. I am just a lucky person. Kai Lai had already dragged Shi Dengtian in from outside. He said with a murderous look, Kneel before my master. Shi Dengtian knelt at Master Pharmacist's feet with a pale face. He could not resist. The soul array made it so that he could not even beg for mercy. Master, this person has committed a great crime. Mu Yu and I both think you should punish him. You can vent all the evil things he did to you. Kai Lai glared at Shi Dengtian with hatred. Medicine Master looked at the trembling Shi Dengtian kneeling on the ground. He recalled how he had been forced to bow before Shi Dengtian. He recalled how Shi Dengtian had almost brought the Pill Cauldron School to destruction. He recalled how Shi Dengtian had colluded with Tian Bue to kill Withered Tree Evergreen. He recalled how the conflict between Ling Bingxue and Daoist Yuanda was because Ling Bingxue wanted to kill Shi Dengtian but Daoist Yuanda wouldn't let her. All kinds of anger and hatred flashed across the Grandmaster Pharmacist's eyes. But in the end, Grandmaster Pharmacist sighed and said, Let him go. He's just a cripple now. He won't be able to cause any trouble. You won't kill me? Shi Dengtian suddenly raised his head to look at the Medicine Master. He never thought that the Medicine Master would say such words. Master, he insulted you so much. Are you not going to kill him? Kai Lai asked calmly. He seemed to have retracted his resentment in an instant. The Medicine Master shook his head. Let him leave. He has also paid the price. The Pill Cauldron School had survived this disaster and Kai Lai had forgiven him. The Medicine Master was already satisfied. He didn't want to kill anymore. Medicine Master, you won't kill him? All right. Mu Yu nodded. He respected the Medicine Master's choice. He and Kai Lai looked at each other. Suddenly, a sword appeared in each of their hands. They attacked at the same time. As fast as lightning, they pierced Shi Dengtian's heart one after the other. You! The Medicine Master was stunned. Master, you didn't kill him because you have a good heart. But I can't forgive him because he did something unforgivable to my master. Kai Lai said with killing intent. Deadwood Daddy's death is related to him. Medicine Master, you can let him go, but I won't allow myself to let him go. Mu Yu pulled back his sword. Shi Dengtian's corpse fell to the ground. He wasn't surprised at all. The moment his Dantian was destroyed, he knew that he would end up like this. The Medicine Master looked at his disciple, then looked at Mu Yu. His gaze swept past Shi Dengtian's body. He sighed and didn't say anything else. That's right. What should Ancestor Yuanda do now? Kai Lai asked. The Medicine Master was also helpless. When Daoist Yuanda had his soul array removed by Mu Yu, he had suffered great injuries. Now, he could only repeat the words, I am not a coward. I think that Daoist Yuanda needs to see his daughter. His daughter might be able to wake him up. Yao Wu Ji sighed. The one who tied the bell should untie it. Mu Yu nodded. I will look for Daoist Yuanda's daughter later. She should return to the Pill Cauldron School now. The Pill Cauldron School can't do without you guys. Then, he seemed to sense something. The 100 Faces illusion array appeared on his face again. At this moment, Mu Hao walked over with a lunchbox. When he saw Mu Yu, his eyes were filled with respect as he said, I'm here to deliver food to a guest. Other than Zhuge Shaoxing, Master Lu, Mu Chenghong and Mu Hao, no one else knew that Daoist Yuanda was in the array sect. In order to protect the secret that Daoist Yuanda was still alive, Zhuge Shaoxing asked Mu Hao, who knew the inside story, to deliver food every day. Ah, it's silly head! Little Shuai exclaimed. When Mu Hao heard this, he frowned. In his impression, the only person who would call him by this name was Mu Yu. But how did this 3 to 4-year-old child in front of him know? My name is Mu Hao, not Sillyhead. Mu Hao introduced himself solemnly. Follow me. Mu Yu handed the lunchbox in Mu Hao's hands to Kai Lai. Then, he brought Mu Hao out of the place and appeared on the sky stairway of the array hall. My lord, why did you bring me here? Do you want me to climb the sky stairway? Mu Hao asked. No, sit. Mu Yu sat on the sky stairway by himself. The array hall was in midair. Every section of the sky stairway would revolve around the array hall. Sitting on the sky stairway and looking at the scenery of the array sect in the distance, it was actually a different kind of mood. Mu Hao hesitated for a moment before sitting down. What do you think of your big brother Mu Yu? Mu Yu asked. This time, he came to the array sect to resolve this heart tribulation. He wanted to make things clear to Mu Hao. He used the 100 Faces illusory array because he wanted to see how Mu Hao viewed his brother from an outsider's perspective. Why are you asking this? Mu Hao asked puzzledly. Mu Yu shrugged his shoulders. Mu Yu and I are good friends. He told me some things about you. Really? Did he praise me in front of you? Mu Hao asked excitedly. Mu Hao knew that this unfamiliar person in front of him had defeated priest Tu Yumeng with a wave of his hand and saved sect leader Zhuge. Therefore, he had always been in awe of this person in front of him. Praise you? Where did you get your confidence from? Xiao Shui laughed. He was sitting on the sky stairway. The direction of the sky stairway above was 1 step ahead of them. Mu Hao scratched his head awkwardly. He didn't praise me? Then, he sighed and looked a little disappointed. Mu Yu looked at his silly brother. It was as if they had returned to the time when they were in the Mu residence. This silly brother of his would often say things like, Big brother Mu Yu is a great hero, Feng Mu is a big bear. It often made Mu Yu want to beat him up but couldn't do it. Do you care about your brother's opinion? Mu Yu asked calmly. Mu Hao hesitated for a moment, then nodded and admitted. He is a great hero and the disciple of a true god. He is the goal that I have always wanted to surpass. Therefore, I work very hard to cultivate because I don't want to lose face for him. Mu Yu laughed in his heart. He didn't know why, but every time he heard Mu Hao praise him, he always felt very happy. Usually, no matter who praised him, Mu Yu didn't feel anything. Because he was very talented, he was used to being praised. However, when Mu Hao praised him, he always felt an indescribable sense of accomplishment. It was a sense of accomplishment that he could become the role model of his little brother. It was as if Mu Hao had said, he had saved the world. He also often calls me silly. I know it is very difficult for me to surpass him now, but I will work hard. Alright, you said that he talked to you about me. What did he say about me? Mu Hao asked impatiently. Perhaps because his big brother Mu Yu and this powerful stranger knew each other, Mu Hao didn't seem so reserved. What did he say about you? Mu Yu stroked his chin. Let me think. He said that you are silly. You clearly can't do anything, but you still like to show off and pretend to know everything. Actually, you are just a little brat who doesn't know anything. Mu Hao's eyes clearly dimmed. He said that about me? Then, he mumbled, I am actually not as bad as he said. Mu Yu looked at Mu Hao's disappointed expression, then smiled and said, But he said that he likes to be your big brother. He doesn't care what others say about him, but he cares a lot about what you think because he wants to be a good big brother that you can rely on. He cares a lot about what I think. TSK, I don't want to rely on that guy who always likes to tease me. Mu Hao humphed, but his expression clearly became happy. Hearing the words, cares a lot about what you think, he seemed very satisfied. What else did he say? Mu Hao asked. He wants to know if you will forgive him, Mu Yu said slowly. Forgive him? Because he always teases me, so he wants me to forgive him? Mu Hao asked in confusion. Mu Yu shook his head. No, because of some of the things he has done. You should have heard what people are saying about him, right? When Mu Hao heard this, he was instantly enraged. Of course I've heard. What Big Brother Mu Yu massacred Eastern Sand City, Big Brother Mu Yu colluding with Yuman, and what True God colluding with Yuman. It's all bullshit. My big brother would never do something like that. True God is also a very good person. Just like how everyone said that Big Brother Mu Yu colluded with the Yao clan, in the end, didn't he prove himself innocent? Those people were jealous of my big brother, so they maliciously slandered him. Useless people are all like that. Mu Yu couldn't help but laugh. He liked how Mu Hao blindly worshipped Big Brother Mu Yu. Although he looked at the real Big Brother Mu Yu with disdain, he didn't allow others to say anything bad about him, Big Brother Mu Yu. However, he also felt a sense of loss because he had indeed massacred Eastern Sand City. If the matter of your big brother massacring Eastern Sand City was true, what would you think? Mu Yu asked. There are no ifs. Big Brother Mu Yu is a great hero. A great hero wouldn't massacre a city, Mu Hao said without hesitation. A great hero. Chapter 938. After a long silence, Mu Yu said, Your big brother Mu Yu is not a hero. He is. Mu Hao's tone was surprisingly firm. He was indeed the one who slaughtered the people of Eastern Sand City. Mu Yu said again. When Mu Hao heard Mu Yu's words, a look of anger immediately appeared on his face. You are not my brother's friend, right? You are just like everyone else, jealous of my brother. I'm not jealous of him. Mu Yu was still hesitant in his heart. He was rarely so hesitant when doing things. However, when facing his younger brother, he always wanted to retain a trace of hope. He didn't want Mu Hao to know the truth. He wanted Mu Hao to always have fantasies about his older brother. However, Mu Yu knew his purpose for coming here. Mu Hao's opinion was very important to him. If he wanted to survive this heart-intent tribulation, he needed to let Mu Hao know the truth. Mu Yu struggled for a moment before removing the illusion array on his face. He said, Your brother personally killed countless cultivators in Eastern Sand City. This matter is absolutely true. Mu Hao stood up and shouted angrily, You are not allowed to slander my brother again. However, when he saw Mu Yu's true face, he suddenly felt as though he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned on the spot. You. Mu Hao was so shocked that he was speechless. That familiar face left Mu Hao stunned for a moment. I'm sorry for hiding it from you for so long, Mu Yu said. Mu Hao's chest heaved up and down as his expression changed. Then, without another word, he turned and left. He leaped onto another stairway, but when he appeared on the next stairway, he was stunned. This was because he did not know how to climb the stairway. What are you doing? Mu Yu had already appeared beside him. You are not my brother. You must have cast 100 faces illusion array on your face to pretend to be my brother. I won't believe you. Mu Hao went down the sky stairway, but when he jumped down, he realized that he had landed on a higher sky stairway. Mu Yu, who had been following behind him, asked, Even this piece of jade can't prove it? All the descendants of the Mu clan would have a small blue stone, which was the best way to prove their identity. Mu Yu stopped Mu Hao. He took the blue stone from Mu Hao's neck and put the two pieces of blue stone together. The two pieces of blue stone emitted a faint blue light. It was just like when Mu Yu put the blue stone into the Mu family's ancestral hall. As long as these two pieces of blue stone touched each other, they would emit a light. Mu Hao snatched the blue stone back, appearing very angry, because this thing could not be fake. My brother won't massacre Eastern Sand City. He believed in Mu Yu's identity, but he didn't believe that this matter was done by Mu Yu. At least, he didn't believe that this matter was done by the big brother Mu Yu in his heart. Mu Yu looked at Mu Hao and shook his head. Many things aren't as simple as you think. Not simple? Then tell me why. Why did you massacre the entire city? Mu Hao questioned. Do you believe me now? Answer me. Mu Hao didn't know where his courage came from, but he roared. A person who was once his role model suddenly told him that his hands were stained with blood, and he wasn't the great hero he imagined. Mu Hao couldn't accept all of this, because they deserved to die. Mu Yu said. Mu Hao clenched his fist. What do you think the Threefold Palace is like? Mu Yu continued asking. The Threefold Palace fights to protect the human race, to lead us against Yuman. Mu Hao gritted his teeth. You should be the same as the Threefold Palace. You're wrong. The Threefold Palace is in cahoots with Yuman. The war between Yuman and the human race was instigated by the Threefold Palace. Mu Yu said in a low voice. Impossible. Mu Hao immediately denied. Why do you think Yuman and Taoist Yuanda attacked the sect leader? Let me tell you, the sect leader can repair all of the city's defensive formations. Once the defensive formations are complete, we can defend against Yuman's invasion. This war will be very difficult to fight. That's why the Threefold Palace ordered Yuman to assassinate the sect leader. Taoist Yuanda was also controlled by the Threefold Palace. Mu Yu said. Just like everyone else, when they heard that the Threefold Palace, the leader of the human race, was doing something like this, their first reaction was doubt. But Mu Hao recalled what happened a while ago. They almost died at the hands of Yuman, and the sect leader almost died at the hands of Taoist Yuanda. However, the sect leader didn't blame Taoist Yuanda and even asked him to take care of Taoist Yuanda. He couldn't understand this. Why are you telling me this? Mu Hao felt that the hero and belief in his heart had collapsed. He wished that Mu Yu hadn't said these things. Because I don't want you to be kept in the dark, Mu Yu said. After a moment of silence, Mu Yu continued, and I do care about what you think. Mu Hao looked at Mu Yu, and Mu Yu looked back at him. I want to leave the stairway. Mu Hao felt his mouth dry up. His heart was in a mess. Mu Yu hesitated for a moment, then brought him down the stairway and landed below the array hall. Mu Hao turned and left. He walked away with large strides. Every step was angrily stomped on the ground, as if he wanted to vent his anger on the ground. This time, Mu Yu didn't stop him. Zhuge Shaoxing walked over. When he saw Mu Hao's appearance, he thought of something and asked, Mu Yu, did you tell him the truth? Mu Yu nodded. He seemed to find it hard to accept. When he entered the array sect, he kept pestering me to ask about your deeds. I told him a lot and told him everything that could be said. Zhuge Shaoxing said slowly. He treated you as an unbreakable belief, and said that he wanted to be like you. That's why he cultivated very hard. He was also talented in array techniques, and his improvement was great. I also brought him around to see the array techniques of various sections. But this reality was very cruel to him. When the Yuman was rampant, the status of array masters also rose. Mu Hao had always hoped to be able to use his strength to fight against the Yuman like you, and not against the three palaces. Zhuge Shaoxing said. Mu Yu was a little disappointed and said, He is a heart tribulation of mine. I always felt that I shouldn't keep him in the dark, and wanted him to see the real me. But was it right for me to do this? Was it right for me to tell him the truth? He thought that Mu Hao didn't need to know anything and just worshipped the big brother Mu Yu in his imagination. But every time he thought of Mu Hao's big brother Mu Yu as a great hero of the human race, he felt very uncomfortable. He said that he wanted to be himself, so he should let Mu Hao know who he was, and not hide the truth from Mu Hao and let him live in a dream. I know. If you want to reach the tribulation stage, you have to pass the heart tribulation. Zhuge Shaoxing nodded. Mu Yu suddenly remembered that Zhuge Shaoxing was also at the 9th level of the combination stage, and he had to face this problem. He asked, Sect Master, what is your heart tribulation? Zhuge Shaoxing looked at Mu Yu and said, You? Me? Mu Yu was stunned. Zhuge Shaoxing said, When the patriarch left, He said that he hoped that the Array sect could survive in the future. At that time, I didn't understand what he meant, but I knew that the responsibility of the Array sect fell on me, so I couldn't stand by and watch. The future of the Array sect became a heart tribulation of mine. Mu Yu looked at Zhuge Shaoxing, waiting for him to continue. And that day, when you told me the truth, I suddenly understood the patriarch's words. The reason why the Array sect wavered in the wind and rain was because I didn't have confidence in myself. But your appearance gave me confidence. That day, when you blocked that attack for me, I seemed to see the light in the darkness. I knew that as long as you were here, the Array sect would have a future. Zhuge Shaoxing said slowly, and then a tribulation stage aura spread out from his body. I relied on you to pass my heart tribulation. Zhuge Shaoxing had actually broken through to the tribulation stage. Mu Yu looked at Zhuge Shaoxing, who had already stepped into the tribulation stage, in shock. When he came back, he was in a hurry and didn't pay attention to this. Sect Master, congratulations. Mu Yu said sincerely. So I think that it's very important to tell the truth. He will feel uncomfortable, but he will also see the reality clearly. Zhuge Shaoxing said. I know. Mu Yu smiled bitterly. He didn't come here to ask for Mu Hao's forgiveness, but to tell Mu Hao the truth personally. When the truth was told, Mu Yu would no longer blindly believe in his big brother hero of the human race. Mu Yu would also feel relieved and wouldn't deliberately hide what kind of person he was. He cared a lot about his younger brother's opinion of him. The truth would make Mu Hao no longer believe in him, but he didn't want his younger brother to continue living in the lies of the Sanchong Palace. I hope he can understand. After passing the heart tribulation, he would truly face himself and let the people he cared about know what kind of person he was. No matter if he was a bad person or a good person, Mu Yu could only resolve this heart tribulation if he said it out loud. Even though Mu Hao didn't forgive him, Mu Yu made Mu Hao see the reality clearly. How he would walk in the future was Mu Hao's business. The only thing Mu Yu could do was to protect Mu Hao as much as possible. Recently, the cultivation world had become more and more extraordinary. The top 20 extreme immortals didn't change for 2 years, or a few dark horses appeared in a month. And Mu Yu, in a month, replaced the original Qian Shange and became the 13th place. Sanchong Palace. Bai Jie sat on the supreme throne and looked at the people kneeling at his feet. Everyone below had the lowest cultivation of the tribulation stage, but in front of Bai Jie, they were incomparably respectful and didn't even dare to raise their heads. Chu Xiaoqi and Xiao Ran, have you investigated the identities of these two people? Bai Jie asked indifferently. Lord, the identities of these two people are not clear. A figure trembled as he said. Their whereabouts have not been found? Bai Jie asked again. No, but Mu Yu should be in the Pill Cauldron sect. This can be confirmed because there is no news of Qian Shange and Wan Shuiyao. They must have been killed by Mu Yu. Bai Jie's face was indifferent, no expression could be seen. What about the 9th eternal life person in the 3rd heaven? Have you found him? Bai Jie was actually looking for the 9th eternal life person. We didn't find him using a secret technique, but we have confirmed one thing. The 9th eternal life person has a deep relationship with Mu Yu because Mu Yu has interacted with him. Deep relationship? Is it his family? No, we secretly went to investigate. His family doesn't have the aura of immortality. Also, the secret technique showed that this person has no cultivation, or his cultivation is very low. He has something powerful on him that is blocking our probing. Then it's easy to eliminate them step by step. Send people to find everyone related to Mu Yu. Bai Jie's eyes glowed white, then he said, we must find the 9th eternal life person. Chapter 939. Under the persuasion of Mu Yu and Kai Lai, the medicine master agreed to return to the Pill Cauldron sect. In fact, He was also feeling uneasy because what he had done back then was a very cowardly thing to do. However, Mu Yu had already assured him that Taoist Yundan would explain this matter to everyone. Moreover, the Pill Cauldron sect could not do without the medicine master. Taoist Yuanda was still the same as before. He seemed to have forgotten that he was a cultivator and did not know anything. He kept saying, "I am not a coward," which made people feel heartache. Mu Yu planned to go to the valley first to ask Ling Bingxue to forgive her father and see if he could wake up Taoist Yuanda. At this time, it was very important for Taoist Yuanda to wake up. Just as they were about to leave the Array sect, Mu Hao appeared in front of everyone with a red face. "You guys go outside and wait for me," Mu Yu said to the medicine master and the others. He looked at Mu Hao and felt conflicted in his heart. "I've thought about it." Mu Hao looked uneasy. Mu Yu walked over and asked with a complicated look in his eyes, "Are you here to send me off?" Grandpa said that Mu Yu is a person who knows his limit. Mu Hao lowered his head and did not look at Mu Yu. So there must be a reason why he massacred the city. It means that those cultivators who were killed really deserved to die. He wouldn't kill the innocent, would he? Mu Hao raised his head, as if he was questioning, but also as if he was seeking Mu Yu's affirmation. Mu Yu could not give Mu Hao this guarantee because many cultivators in the eastern Sand City did not deserve to die. They were just too timid to stand out. However, Mu Yu still killed them. Whether or not he killed the innocent, Mu Yu could not say for sure. "I can only tell you that I am not a great hero. I will only save those who deserve to live." However, Mu Yu thought of the Commander Transfer Array that he had recently researched. Although the name was a bit unbearable, he really wanted to save people. Everyone outside is slandering the true God and expecting the Triple Palace to save the world. But compared to the three palaces, I'm more willing to believe in a true God, Mu Hao said firmly. "Thank you." Mu Yu smiled knowingly. "I will surpass you." Mu Hao clenched his fist. Mu Yu nodded. "Don't disappoint me." Mu Hao turned around and left silently. He had always been a very competitive and stubborn person. He didn't like others treating him like a child. Mu Yu smiled and followed Grandmaster Medicine Master and the others out of the Array faction. Along the way, Taoist Yuanda seemed to be panicking. He had even forgotten that he had a cultivation level. Even when Mu Yu brought him flying, he was still very afraid, and he still muttered, "I'm not a coward." Junior sister doesn't even know what happened to Pill Cauldron sect now. I hope she can forgive Martial Uncle. Yao Wuji had been comforting Taoist Yuanda. His expression was somewhat worried. Mu Yu was also very worried about Taoist Yuanda. He didn't want anything to happen to Taoist Yuanda. Kai Lai pondered at the side, then asked, "Mu Yu, are you planning to look for Tianran next?" "Yes, I'm going to look for Tianran." Mu Yu hadn't seen Tianran for a long time, so he didn't know about Tianran's current situation. Grandmaster Medicine Master's face froze. He looked at Kai Lai and said, "Mu Yu, don't you know what Tianran means to Red Dust Sect?" Last time, Kai Lai said she was a heavenly girl. So what? Mu Yu didn't think much of it. A few months ago, Tianran was confirmed to be the next sect master of Red Dust Sect. The sect master of Red Dust Sect can't be together with men. Tianran's mother violated the sect rules and was imprisoned in Red Dust Sect for life, Grandmaster Medicine Master said seriously. Mu Yu didn't comment and snorted lightly, "I don't care so much." "Mu Yu, I like your straightforward personality. In my opinion, being my sister-in-law is much better than being the sect master of Red Dust Sect. I support you in snatching Tianran back. But to be honest, when those old witch of Red Dust Sect go crazy, it's very scary." Kai Lai had been very upset these past few days. But after Grandmaster Medicine Master forgave him, he returned to his previous indifferent attitude. When he joked, he didn't care. "Kai Lai, don't be rude," Grandmaster Medicine Master reminded. Kai Lai stuck out his tongue. Anyway, you remember Shiman Wuji, right? He was often hunted down by the elders of Red Dust Sect. Some of the female elders of Red Dust Sect, who lived in seclusion, didn't show any mercy in order to avenge their disciples. But Shiman Wuji's skin is thick and his life is tough. I think you're so strong, you shouldn't be afraid of them. But this matter is not child's play. So Mu Yu, you must be careful. If you and Tian Ran go together, you'll become the enemy of the entire Red Dust Sect, Grandmaster Medicine Master reminded. It's fine. We're not afraid of any old witch. Big Sister Tian Ran is the white-bearded old man's daughter. She and Mu Yu love each other very much, little Shuai said from the side. Tian Ran is the white-bearded old man's daughter? Who's this white-bearded old man you're talking about? Grandmaster Medicine Master and Kai Lai were both shocked. The two of them had heard a little about Tian Ran, but they had never heard of who Tian Ran's father was. Tian Ran used to be an outer disciple of Grandmaster Medicine Master to learn alchemy, so she knew a little about Tian Ran's background. Back then, Tian Ran's mother, Miao Yuyan, had accidentally become pregnant with Tian Ran after being confirmed as the next sect leader. She refused to tell anyone who Tian Ran's father was and broke the rules of the Red Dust Sect. That was why she was imprisoned by the elders of Red Dust Sect. After so many years, no one knew who Tian Ran's father was. But judging from little Shuai's tone, it seemed that he knew. You know who Tian Ran's father is? Kai Lai asked in surprise. Mu Yu rubbed little Shuai's head and was silent for a moment. I can trust you, can't I? Grandmaster Medicine Master, and Kai Lai nodded, but then Grandmaster Medicine Master said, Mu Yu, you can trust us, but if this secret is very important, you don't have to tell us. Kai Lai also smiled. We're not gossiping. We just heard from my master that this matter caused an uproar. The entire Red Dust Sect almost exploded. If you ask me, to be able to steal the heart of the Red Dust Sect's holy daughter, that's really a good skill. Are you praising Mu Yu? Mu Yu also stole Tian Ran's heart, little Shuai said. That's right. Brother, next time you must remember to teach me how to chase a girl. Let me see if I can bring the Jade Sect's holy daughter into the little forest. Kai Lai moved closer to Mu Yu's ear and laughed mischievously. Grandmaster Medicine Master pulled Kai Lai's ear. Kai Lai, I just thought that you've grown up recently. Why are you acting like a child again? Kai Lai secretly made a funny face, then straightened his clothes and said seriously, Mu Yu, you're not the only one. We're all adults now. You stealing the holy daughter's heart is very wrong. At least, you should be like me. I'm a very serious person. I've already promised my master that I'll listen to him in the future. Even if the Jade Sect's holy daughter wants to drag me into the little forest and beg me, I'll have to ask my master's opinion first. Shameless. Mu Yu cursed without hesitation. Grandmaster Medicine Master shook his head helplessly. Mu Yu thought about it. There was no need to hide this matter. At least Tian Ran trusted Grandmaster Medicine Master and Kai Lai. Mu Yu slowly said, Tian Ran's father is actually my master. Grandmaster Medicine Master and Kai Lai were both shocked. Both of them immediately widened their eyes in shock. Tian Ran's father is a true god? Kai Lai's mouth was open so wide that an egg could be stuffed in. Is this true? Grandmaster Medicine Master couldn't help but ask. How could they have imagined that the Tian Ran they were familiar with would have such a shocking background? Yes. Mu Yu didn't care about being enemies with the Red Dust Sect. He was someone who challenged the Threefold Palace. If the Red Dust Sect wanted to stop him from being together with Tian Ran, then he would deal with them first. Kai Lai was shocked for a moment, then recovered. He didn't suspect anything and immediately patted Mu Yu's shoulder, saying, This is a perfect match. A true god's daughter is thousands of times more powerful than a sect master. A sect master is nothing. Mu Yu, I will help you get Tian Ran back. Grandmaster Medicine Master also recovered after a long time. If it were anyone else saying this, he wouldn't have believed them. However, Mu Yu was Jian Ying's disciple. His words couldn't be false. I never thought that Tian Ran would be a true god's daughter. Grandmaster Medicine Master was shocked. Then Grandmaster Potion remembered something and said, "Oh right, there's one more thing I need to remind you. The reason why the Red Dust sect leader can't be with a man is because their Red Dust Lotus Technique's strongest technique is called the Red Dust Emotionless Technique. It's a virgin technique. Only a virgin can unleash its full power. Therefore, the Red Dust sect leaders have cut off their emotions and worldly affairs to become emotionless. Whether it's family, friendship, or love, they don't allow them to exist." "I'm afraid," Mu Yu frowned, "then I won't let Tian Ran be the sect master." Tian Ran still hadn't fully acknowledged her father. If she became emotionless and desireless because of this technique, Mu Yu wouldn't allow it to happen. "It seems that we have to break into the Red Dust sect," Kai Lai said seriously. "What are you going to do? Are you going to drag us down?" Yao Wuji looked at Kai Lai helplessly. Kai Lai was only an out-of-body stage cultivator and an alchemist with low battle strength. Breaking into the Red Dust sect was not suitable for him. "You can't say that. I'm going to cheer for Mu Yu. Moreover, Master, Tian Ran can be considered half your disciple. Think about it, you took in an outer disciple who was actually the daughter of a true god. Now that the Red Dust sect wants Tian Ran to cut off her feelings, would you agree to this?" Kai Lai asked. Yao Wuji nodded thoughtfully. "That's true. I still hope that Tian Ran can maintain her pure personality. Mu Yu, I'll think of a way to help you." "Many thanks." Mu Yu nodded. He had already broken into the Red Dust sect once, so it wasn't a big deal for him to try again. After flying for a few hours, Mu Yu finally saw a familiar valley. It was the place where Ling Bingxue lived in seclusion. The entire valley had been transformed by Ling Bingxue into a beautiful landscape, turning it into a paradise. Although it was a far cry from the valley in Mu Yu's memory, Mu Yu still preferred this scenery. But at this moment, Mu Yu's face suddenly changed. "What's wrong?" Yao Wuji and Kai Lai asked. "Triple Palace." Chapter 940. The white light in the valley was very strong, and the formations in the surroundings were also flickering, resisting the invasion of the white light. Last time, before Mu Yu left, he had set up some protective formations, and now they were all activated. Mu Yu was shocked and angry. The valley was the place where he, Deadwood Daddy, was sleeping, and the people from the Threefold Palace actually found this place. This was simply unforgivable. Without saying anything, he took a step forward and disappeared from his original spot, appearing above the valley. 3 figures with white light all over their bodies were destroying the restriction of the valley. Among these 3 people, 2 of them were in the form synthesis stage, and the remaining one was in the crossing tribulation stage with powerful aura. "Stop!" Sword chi mixed with an angry shout fell from the sky, and a green light cut through the void, chopping towards the 3 people above the valley. Swish! The 3 people from the Threefold Palace sensed Mu Yu's sword chi. One of the crossing tribulation stage person raised his hand, and a big hand appeared in the void, grabbing Mu Yu's sword chi out of thin air. "What a pleasant surprise, I actually saw you here. But why did your cultivation become form synthesis stage?" The crossing tribulation stage person looked at the place where the sword chi came from, but they didn't see anyone. There was only one person who had this kind of sword chi, and they couldn't see anyone, and that was Mu Yu, who had the blood cover heaven. The sword chi came and went quickly, and Mu Yu had already stopped. Because the 3 people had already grabbed 2 people, one was Ling Bingxue, and the other was the corpse of Deadwood Daddy. The valley was already in a mess, and the celestial demon tree was also in a mess, destroyed into a pile of broken branches and broken leaves. "Mu Yu, this person is Yu Xuanfang, who is ranked 15th in the extreme celestial realm. You have to be careful." Ling Bingshue's face was very pale, as if she had suffered a very serious injury. She was caught by a middle-aged man of form synthesis stage, and another middle-aged man was rudely restraining Deadwood Daddy's body. She is right, when I caught them just now, I was still thinking whether you would come or not. Yu Xuanfang grabbed Deadwood's clothes. This is Deadwood Evergreen, who cast the blood cover heaven on you? I thought he had 3 heads and 6 arms. So it's just a dead man. Get your dirty hands off me. Mu Yu's eyes were instantly filled with rage. The seal on his left hand shattered, and the power of slaughter instantly filled his entire body. He didn't want to use the power of slaughter, but he couldn't care less. He had to kill this bastard. Shadow Sword was waved out from the sky, and tens of thousands of sword chi rose from the ground, straight into the sky. Immediately, the sword chi poured down from the sky, and chopped towards Sun Fang and the other 2. However, the sword chi suddenly stopped 3 meters away from Yu Xuanfang. Yu Xuanfang grabbed Ku Mu's throat and used him as a shield. Let him go. Mu Yu's eyes were about to split open. His chest was filled with endless anger. Looking at the appearance of Deadwood Daddy being grabbed by Yu Xuanfang, his heart was filled with hatred. This bunch of trash. What? You don't dare to slash down with your sword chi? Ha! Yu Xuanfang laughed insolently. His appearance when laughing looked very sacred, making Mu Yu loathe him to the extreme. What's going on? Medicine Master and Kai Lai brought along Yuan the Taoist and arrived. When they saw the appearance of the dead Deadwood being grabbed by Yu Xuanfang as a shield, they were also extremely furious. It's Threefold Palace again. Kai Lai already hated Threefold Palace to the bone. Despicable, you dare to use senior brother Deadwood to threaten us. Medicine Master was burning with anxiety. He knew how much weight Deadwood had in Mu Yu's heart. Yu Xuanfang was actually despicable to this extent. Mu Yu's entire body was trembling. His sword chi was also instantly extinguished. He did not dare to slash down anymore because if he slashed down with his sword chi, Deadwood Daddy would definitely turn into ashes. He did not dare to gamble. Let him go. Mu Yu's voice was incomparably gloomy. Originally, he thought that since Ling Bingxue brought Deadwood Daddy to live in seclusion here, Threefold Palace would not find trouble with him. Never did he expect that Threefold Palace would not even let off a dead person. Yu Xuanfang looked at the sword chi that was originally capable of destroying heaven and exterminating earth, suddenly disappeared. He sneered and said, "What? You don't dare to harm this dead person? TSK, so it turns out that using this dead person to deal with you is more effective than any other method. I should have taken action against him long ago." Mu Yu clenched his fist tightly. His entire body was filled with anger. Very good, I want to see if this dead person is very important to you. Kill those 3 eyesores behind you, then I will let this dead person go. How about it? The sacred smile on Yu Xuanfang's face appeared filthy in Mu Yu's eyes. Medicine Master and Kai Lai were both startled. You deserve to die. Mu Yu's voice had already changed. The slaughter energy had already entered his mind. There was only one thought left in his mind, and that was to chop this Threefold Palace person in front of him into 10,000 pieces. The 3 of them are the remnants of Danding sect. They are not worthy to see our faces. If you don't kill them, then I will destroy Deadwood Chongqing's corpse. Yu Xuanfang laughed. Mu Yu closed his eyes. The slaughter energy had nearly destroyed his reason. However, he firmly restrained his killing intent. He will not negotiate with Threefold Palace people, and he will not kill Medicine Master and Kai Lai. The only people he wants to kill are Threefold Palace people. You are really not going to make a move? Yu Xuanfang increased the strength in his hand and grabbed Deadwood's corpse. Mu Yu opened his eyes and looked at Yu Xuanfang. His eyes were suffused with a strange black and white radiance, just like an azura. This place is truly lively. Just at this time, a swift light shone from behind Yu Sun Fang. The air instantly exploded, as if something had jumped out from the void. It was swift and berserk. Terrifying energy surged out. Following that, Yu Sun Fang's divine smile suddenly froze. He opened his mouth wide, wanting to say something. However, no sound came out. His throat was pierced by a sharp blade. After searching for so long, I finally found the 15th extreme immortal. Now, Master won't drown me in a pig cage, haha. A joyous voice came from behind Yu Sun Fang. Following that, a powerful suction force came from the sharp blade in Yu Sun Fang's throat. The white radiance around Yu Sun Fang's body gradually dimmed. His skin also gradually became wrinkled, revealing his incomparably ugly appearance. Swish! Mu Yu's sword chi filled with killing intent already chopped down towards Yu Sun Fang. Yu Sun Fang was chopped down from the center of his head, splitting him into two. As for Deadwood's body, it had already disappeared from Yu Sun Fang's hand and was firmly protected by Mu Yu. Wah! Be careful, you are going to die. Chu Xiaqi's figure jumped out from behind Yu Sun Fang and dodged Mu Yu's life-reaping sword. He deserved to die. Mu Yu recognized Chu Xiaqi. He is the freckled youth who helped Taoist Chu Byuku to sell fake goods back then. Chu Xiaqi shouted loudly, "Ah! You chopped him to death? Then who is responsible for killing him?" Chu Xiaqi extended his wrist and checked for a long time. Finally, he revealed a relieved smile. Good, this guy was killed by me. I don't need to drown him in a pig cage." A 15th extreme immortal mark appeared on his wrist. Mu Yu's sword chi swept out again. Yu Sun Fang was chopped into pieces by his sword chi. "Father, I am sorry. I said that I won't let you get injured again." Mu Yu smoothed out the clothes on Ku Mu's body. The two people who grabbed Ling Bingxue wanted to escape, but were also directly blasted into pieces by Mu Yu. Medicine Master and Kai Lai quickly rushed over. Only then did they relax. They looked at Chu Xiaqi, who suddenly appeared with bewilderment. The strength of this person in front of them also scared them. "Many thanks," Mu Yu said to Chu Xiaqi. Chu Xiaqi waved his hand indifferently. "I did not come to save you. I came to kill the 15th extreme immortal. I chased this guy for many days and finally caught him. Otherwise, I would be drowned in a pig cage when I return. See you later." Chu Xiaqi chuckled and leaped out. Without waiting for others to say anything, he disappeared. This person, who is this person? Why did he come and go as he pleased? Kai Lai could not help but ask. Mu Yu looked at Chu Xiaqi's departing figure, then said, "A very strong person. The last time he saw Chu Byuku and his two disciples, Taoist Chu Byuku used his powerful strength to conceal his cultivation. Even Mu Yu did not realize that Chu Xiaqi was actually such an expert. He silently appeared behind Yu Xuanfang and killed him in one move. Of course, this was because Yu Xuanfang was arrogant and focused all his attention on Mu Yu. However, Chu Xiaqi had such a method and was unknown to the public. He was indeed powerful. Ling Bingxue also rushed over. Seeing that Ku Mu did not suffer any injuries, she let out a sigh of relief. "Are you okay?" Mu Yu slowly retracted his killing aura. The shadow sword in his hand moved. Sword chi rushed into his body and forced the killing aura and soul power in his body back to his left hand. "I am fine." Ling Bingxue was suddenly startled, because she saw Taoist Yuan De beside Kai Lai. What is he doing here? Ling Bingxue coldly looked at her father. Medicine Master quickly said, "I was just about to tell you this. Your father is in trouble." "Coward," Ling Bingxue coldly said. "I am not a coward, I am not a coward," Taoist Yuan De suddenly shouted. He tightly grabbed the corner of Medicine Master's clothes. His face was filled with panic. "Martial uncle, you are not a coward, you are not." Medicine Master patted Taoist Yuan De's shoulder and comforted him. Ling Bingxue frowned. Clearly, she also noticed that something was wrong with her father. What happened to him? Lung Bingshu asked. Medicine Master hesitated for a moment and asked, Junior sister, you don't know what happened to Pill Cauldron sect recently? I did not pay attention to it. I only want to live my own life. Lung Bingshu said. Medicine Master sighed. Pill Cauldron sect was almost exterminated. Martial Uncle was also framed by Threefold Palace. He is already delirious. Ling Bingshue's expression froze. Mu Yu glanced at Ling Bingshue and slowly said, I came here to bring you all back to Pill Cauldron sect. Now that Pill Cauldron sect has been destroyed, I need your help. Those 3 people who attacked just now were the lackeys of Threefold Palace. They caused your father to become like this. Where is Shi Dengtian? I killed him, Mu Yu said indifferently. Ling Bingshue closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She did not move. Junior sister, you should know that Martial Uncle has his difficulties, Medicine Master explained. Ling Bingshue glanced at Mu Yu. My father's death is not Senior Yuanda's fault. My father will not blame him. The real mastermind behind my father's death is Threefold Palace, not Senior Yuanda. Chapter 941. Ling Bingshue hesitated for a moment. Now that Shi Dengtian was dead, she no longer had any regrets. Looking at her unconscious father, she silently walked over. I didn't expect you to become like this. Ling Bingshue's gaze was complicated. After all, he was her father. She couldn't really blame him for the rest of her life. Junior sister. Medicine Master hesitated. I will take care of him, and try my best to make him remember the past. Lung Bingshue said. Medicine Master was stunned for a moment, then he revealed a relieved smile. This was obviously the best outcome. The current Pill Cauldron sect could not do without Taoist Yuanda. Ling Bingshue forgave her father, but even so, Taoist Yuanda still had not fully recovered. It was only under Ling Bingshue's comfort that he stopped talking nonsense and his condition slowly improved. The valley had been severely damaged. Mu Yu was worried about the 2 of them staying here any longer, so he brought the others back to Pill Cauldron sect. Taoist Yundan was extremely excited about the return of Taoist Yuanda, Medicine Master, and Ling Bingshu. Now that Pill Cauldron sect had lost 2 martial uncles, Hong Yuan and Hongyi, only Taoist Yuanda was still alive. Taoist Yuanda's return could be said to have given Pill Cauldron sect hope. Ling Bingshue was also a rank 6 alchemist, so she was very important to Pill Cauldron sect. Don't worry, we will definitely find a way to help Martial Uncle recover his consciousness. Nothing must happen to him, Taoist Yundan said firmly. Then he saw Medicine Master and said apologetically, Junior brother Medicine Master, I'm sorry. What happened that day was my fault. Medicine Master smiled calmly. Senior brother sect master is too serious. Let bygones be bygones. Don't worry, I have already told everyone in Pill Cauldron sect. They all know what you were doing back then. No one dares to say anything about you. Taoist Yundan said seriously. Medicine Master smiled and patted Kai Lai's shoulder. It's fine. This child's opinion of me is more important than anyone else. Kai Lai grinned. Don't worry, Master. I will protect you in the future. If anyone dares to gossip, I will not forgive them. Medicine Master nodded in relief. At least he understood that Kai Lai could take care of himself. Mu Yu also transferred the bodies of the old city lord and placed them in the Pill Cauldron sect. Mu Yu brought Deadwood Daddy to the Kai Su Cauldron. He had thought about it. No matter what happened, the Open Ruins Cauldron was the safest place because the Open Ruins Cauldron could keep the people from the 3 palaces outside. Dad, just wait for me here. Mu Yu looked at Deadwood Daddy's body from inside the Kai Su Cauldron and felt extremely melancholy. Big Black and Big White scurried around in the Ruins Cauldron. Suddenly, they leaped onto Deadwood Daddy's body. They seemed to have found their master and wanted to wake him up. However, Deadwood Daddy didn't move at all. He didn't react at all. I'll be back. Muyu was just about to leave the ruins cauldron when Dehei and Bai suddenly rushed over and blocked his path. What's wrong? Muyu asked, puzzled. Little Shuai jumped out and jumped onto Dehei's head. He suddenly said in surprise, Muyu, Dehei and Bai want you to leave Deadwood Daddy's soul behind. No, I have to guard the soul stabilizing formation at all times. Muyu shook his head. Dehei and Bai jumped up and down in the air, spinning around. Little Shuai continued. Dehei and Bai said that they can help guard the soul stabilizing formation because the soul stabilizing formation is the reason why Deadwood Daddy is still their master. As long as his soul and body are still there, they will continue to maintain the open ruins cauldron when you're not around. Why? Muyu didn't understand. Actually, Muyu, think about it. The chaos yin and yang have their own spirituality. If the previous master dies, then the chaos yin and yang will change masters. However, the last time we came here, the chaos yin and yang still recognized Deadwood Daddy as their master. It's probably because of the soul stabilizing formation. The soul stabilizing formation prevents Deadwood from truly dying, Little Shuai said. Muyu's interest was piqued. He immediately asked, so Dehei and Bai can protect the soul stabilizing formation? Dehei and Bai continued to spin around. Little Shuai nodded. They said they can. Muyu pondered for a moment. Dehei and Bai had already recognized Deadwood Daddy as their master. Muyu knew that they wouldn't speak without thinking. It was indeed safer to leave the jade pendant here. Okay. I'll continue to search for Reverend Nile. Dad, wait for me. Muyu placed the jade pendant in Deadwood Daddy's hand. He looked at Deadwood Daddy's serene appearance. His conviction had never changed. Muyu stood up. He took a step forward and left the open ruins cauldron with Little Shuai. After Muyu left the open ruins cauldron, Dehei and Bai suddenly spun around and rushed into the jade pendant. Then, the soul-stabilizing formation activated. Deadwood Daddy's damaged soul began to glow, and a strange rhythm seemed to appear between his body and soul. The inscriptions within the open ruins cauldron also began to appear, as if they were cheering for Deadwood Daddy's return. Then, an 8 trigrams array appeared beneath his body. During the several days that Muyu had been gone, almost everyone in the pill cauldron sect had been refining 5th-level revolving pills. They had just barely reached the amount that Muyu needed. And now, Muyu was finally able to activate the revolving pill spirit restoring array. Everyone leapt into the air, nervously looking at Muyu. Whether or not the pill cauldron sect could be rebuilt depended on Muyu. Now that Muyu had done so much for the pill cauldron sect, he had become the center of everyone's attention. You must succeed. Taoist Cloud Pill silently prayed in his heart. Muyu stood atop the open ruins cauldron. Runes surged out from his hands, and over 100,000 revolving pills were poured into every corner of the pill cauldron sect, fusing into the ground and fusing with the revolving pill spirit restoring array. A powerful and mysterious rune appeared from Muyu's hands. A colorful light drilled out from the open ruins cauldron, turning into motes of starlight that poured into every inch of the pill cauldron sect's land. Everyone in the pill cauldron sect was watching, shocked by Muyu's runes. As alchemists, they had never known that their sect had such a powerful technique. Then, the land of the pill cauldron sect began to surge. Sand and stones began to gather together, and the ground soon rose up, forming mountains. Sweet and clear water gushed out from the depths of the ground, forming waterfalls that dotted the mountains. The trees seemed to be restored, and the branches began to sprout. These mountains were slowly recovering. But they weren't recovering the terrain of several months ago, but the terrain that had been recorded by the revolving pill spirit restoring array thousands of years ago. However, even so, this caused Taoist Cloud Pill to be excited. They had never thought that the pill cauldron sect would be rebuilt. Alright. You will have to rely on yourselves for the rest of the matters. Those houses and buildings can't be restored. The Dan Hall can be considered as completely destroyed. However, The ancient ancestral hall of the Dan Cauldron sect and the Dan Scripture Pavilion have been moved back by me. Mu Yu landed beside Taoist Yun Dan. It's fine, it's fine. We will rebuild the rest ourselves. Mu Yu, I really don't know how to thank you. Taoist Cloud Pill sighed with emotion. No need. It's time for me to leave the Pill Cauldron sect. You should seal off the Pill Cauldron sect as much as possible. No matter what the outside world says, you don't need to care. Now that the cultivation world's threefold palace wants to start a war, you alchemists shouldn't interfere. Rest and recuperate. In the future, we will have to face the threefold palace together, Mu Yu said. Helion Kong floated to Mu Yu's side and said, Don't worry about this. In the future, our Pill Cauldron sect will definitely stand with you. Helion Kong was once a member of the threefold palace. Now, he was the most senior person in the Pill Cauldron sect. Naturally, he knew how to manage the Pill Cauldron sect. Taoist Cloud Pill and the others already knew about the threefold palace's conspiracy. Now, they could only rely on Helion Kong's leadership. Therefore, they didn't dare to disobey Helion Kong's words. Mu Yu, I need to talk to you about the threefold palace alone, Helion Kong said. Senior, please speak. Right now, I'll treat anything related to the threefold palace with caution, Mu Yu said. Helion Kong sent everyone away. Then, he said solemnly, Mu Yu, when you weren't around these few days, I sent people to investigate and discovered something. What is it? The Supreme Immortal Ranking. I discovered that the Supreme Immortal Ranking significance is still the same as the Supreme Immortal Ranking of my era, Helion Kong said. Isn't the Supreme Immortal Ranking something the threefold palace created to entertain themselves? Mu Yu asked in confusion. Helion Kong shook his head. You're wrong. The Supreme Immortal Ranking isn't that simple. Mu Yu looked at Helion Kong's solemn expression. He felt that Helion Kong wasn't joking. Thus he said, Senior, now is the time. If you have anything to say, just say it. Then I'll say it. The Supreme Immortal Ranking is extremely powerful. A long time ago, the Supreme Immortal Ranking wasn't just used to fight against human. It was used to fight against the outsiders. Helion Kong said. Fight against the outsiders? Mu Yu didn't understand. You must have seen some other races suppressed in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, right? For example, the Moon Race? Helion Kong asked. Mu Yu nodded. I've seen them before. The Moon Race is a kind of outsider race. They don't come from the threefold heaven. Instead, they come from another world. Helion Kong said solemnly. Mu Yu looked at him and didn't say anything. You haven't heard of them, right? When Helion Kong said that he was from the threefold palace last time, he didn't receive any shock from Mu Yu. This time, he didn't give up. He was sure that Mu Yu definitely hadn't heard of the outsiders from another world. What? They come from another world? I'm so scared. Little Shuai took a bite of an apple and made a fuss. Then, he started chewing as if nothing had happened. Mu Yu felt a headache coming on. He and Little Shuai were already aware of this. Putting everything else aside, the Moon Race in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda had already become his killing force. Helion Kong nodded in satisfaction. That's right. The threefold palace's original purpose was to protect the threefold heaven and prevent the outsiders from invading. The Supreme Immortal Leaderboard exists to select 9 Xian Immortals to control the Supreme Immortal Steel and activate the 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation to fight against the outsiders. However, because of the chaos in the Yuman, the Supreme Immortal Steel was also used to fight against the Yuman. 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation? What kind of formation is that? Mu Yu asked. Helion Kong stroked his beard and said, The 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation is an extremely powerful ancient formation. It's said that it uses the power of the heavens as its foundation. The strength of the formation depends on the strength of the 9 Xian Immortals. The power of the heavens as its foundation? Mu Yu exclaimed. That's right. The power of the heavens. Wait, you probably don't know what the power of the heavens is this time, right? Helian Kong looked at Mu Yu suspiciously. Every time he said some shocking secret, Mu Yu would know. This made him lose face. Nonsense. Of course Mu Yu knew. Right, I don't know. Chapter 942. Helian Kong was very satisfied with Mu Yu's reaction of feigning ignorance. This way, he could act like a senior. The power of the heavens is a power that uses the 9 immortals as its hosts. It's a very magical power, and it's also the reason why this world is not destroyed. The 9 profound heaven battle formation is a powerful formation that uses the power of the heavens as its base. It's enough to resist the other races. Of course, it can resist the human as well, Helian Kong explained. The 9 profound heaven battle formation can control the power of the heavens? I thought only the 9 heavens inverse formation can control the power of the heavens, Mu Yu said in surprise. Back then, the Azure Dragon Demon King had told him to find the 9 immortals to activate the 9 heavens inverse formation to control the power of the heavens against the third palace. However, Helian Kong had told Mu Yu about a strange formation. Where did you hear about the 9 heavens inverse formation? How come I've never heard of it being able to control the power of the heavens? Helian Kong asked in confusion. Mu Yu shook his head. I didn't say anything. Continue. The Azure Dragon Demon King had told Mu Yu that the 9 heavens inverse formation was suggested by Jian Ying and Chen Feng. In Mu Yu's opinion, the 9 heavens inverse formation was probably invented by his mysterious and powerful master. Although Helian Kong was from the third palace, he might not know about this. Since the 9 profound heaven battle formation is used to resist the human and the other races, then it's not important to the third palace at all, right? Mu Yu asked. No. Actually, you don't understand one thing. The Supreme Immortal Tablet isn't controlled by the third palace. It's a very powerful treasure that existed a long time ago. The third palace can only activate it, but they can't interfere with it. In other words, no matter who becomes the last 9 immortals, the third palace can't interfere and can only follow the rules of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. The only thing the 3-layer palace can do now is to firmly control the first 9 Xian immortals, Helian Kong said solemnly. What other uses does the 9 profound heaven battle formation have other than fighting human and the other races? Mu Yu always felt that it was impossible for the threefold palace to have nothing better to do to activate this powerful formation that was completely meaningless to them. After all, the Yumeng Devil clan was under their control. The war could break out at any time, and it could end at any time. There was no need to rely on a formation like the 9 profound heaven battle formation. Let me put it this way. If you become one of the 9 Xian immortals, you will be able to activate this formation. Using the power of the heavenly eternity to activate the formation is quite powerful. At the very least, there is no power stronger than the power of the heavenly eternity in the 3 heavens. Do you understand? Helian Kong said solemnly. Mu Yu suddenly thought of something when he heard Helian Kong's words. Could it be that Bai Jie activated the Supreme Immortal Tablet to control the most powerful power in the 3 heavens, the power of the heavenly eternity? Not only that, you have to know that the power of the heavenly eternity is the most powerful power in this world. If it can be drawn into the Supreme Immortal Tablet by the 9 profound heaven battle formation, this means that this power can also be used in other formation techniques. You told me that Bai Jie of the Third Palace is an extremely skilled formation master. I have a feeling that he has some ulterior motive for using the power of the heavenly eternity, Helian Kong said. Ulterior motive? What does the Third Palace want to use the power of the heavenly eternity for? Mu Yu fell into deep thought. Bai Jie had always been cunning and deceitful. He pretended to be the savior of the cultivation world and did all sorts of dirty deeds. He was very ambitious. What other ulterior motives did he have? I'm not sure about that, but the Third Palace released another piece of news the day before yesterday. They delayed the Xian Immortal Battle to half a year later. Helian Kong said. Delayed? Mu Yu looked at Helian Kong in surprise. There was still more than a month before the Xian Immortal Battle, but he didn't expect it to be delayed. I think it's because too many dark horses have appeared recently. Whether it's Yang Nan, who occupied the 9th place early on, or you, or even Luo Shang, Chu Xiaqi, Xiao Ran, Shadow Kill, and Dong Ji, all of you aren't under the control of the Third Palace. All of you have a chance of becoming one of the top 9 profound immortals. Once unstable factors like you guys enter the top 9, it means that Bai Jie's plan to control the power of the heavenly eternity will be disrupted. So, he has to ensure that nothing goes wrong before he can proceed with the Xian Immortal Battle, Helian Kong guessed. Didn't you say that the Supreme Immortal Tablet isn't controlled by the Third Palace? How can they determine the time of the Xian Immortal Battle? Mu Yu asked. The Third Palace can only activate the Xian Immortal Tablet, but they can't control it. But think about it, who else can summon all the Xian Immortals to the Xian Immortal Tablet except for the Third Palace? So, all the Xian Immortals are actually waiting for their notice. So, the Third Palace can control the time of the Xian Immortal Battle, Helian Kong explained. The Threefold Palace had absolute rallying power in the cultivation world. Once they announced the start of the Xian Immortal War, all the Xian Immortals would know and rush over. No other power could gather all the Xian Immortals. Are there any conditions to start the Xian Immortal Battle? Mu Yu asked. Yes, as long as more than 2/3 of the Xian Immortals are on the Xian Immortal Tablet, it's enough to enter the Xian Immortal Leaderboard. The Xian Immortals will compete in the Xian Immortal Tablet, and 9 Xian Immortals will be determined. Bai Jie can't interfere with this process. Anyway, I'll continue to investigate this matter. You have to cultivate quickly and raise your cultivation level. You must be one of the 9 Xian Immortals. Helian Kong said. The Third Palace wanted to control all 9 Xian Immortals and use the 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation to control the power of the Heavenly Eternity to carry out some unspeakable scheme. If these 9 Xian Immortals were interfered with, the Third Palace's plan would be messed up. So, this was Mu Yu's chance. Then, which is more powerful, using the 9 Immortals to control the power of the Heavenly Eternity, or using the 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation to control the power of the Heavenly Eternity? Mu Yu remembered what the Green Dragon Monster King said. Combining the 9 Immortals and using the 9 Heavens Inverse Formation could temporarily control the power of the Heavenly Eternity. But now, Helian Kong mentioned that the 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation could also control the power of the Heavenly Eternity. What was the connection between these two formations? Helian Kong pondered for a moment and said, I think the 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation is more powerful. After all, the 9 Immortals are only the hosts of the power of the Heavenly Eternity. They are used to ensure that the power of the Heavenly Eternity doesn't disappear. Hosts don't mean that they can control it. Maybe they can control it temporarily. I'm not sure. But I'm sure that to control the power of the Heavenly Eternity, one must use the Xian Immortal Tablet. Is that so? Mu Yu felt that Bai Jie must have realized the Green Dragon Monster King's plan. He knew that the Green Dragon Monster King wanted to gather the 9 Immortals and use the 9 Heavens Inverse Formation to destroy the Third Palace. The power of the Heavenly Eternity wasn't something that Bai Jie could resist. So, Bai Jie had to control the Xian Immortal Tablet and use the 9 Immortals recognized by the tablet to activate the 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation. What was certain was that both the Green Dragon Monster King's 9 Heavens Inverse Formation and Bai Jie's 9 Profound Heaven Battle Formation were trying to control the power of the Heavenly Eternity. Whoever controlled the power of the Heavenly Eternity would be the final victor. However, if Bai Jie wanted to control the power of the Heavenly Eternity, He had to control the 9 immortals. Otherwise, if Xiang Nan or Mu Yu appeared, his plan would be ruined. Therefore, Bai Jie had to think of a way to get rid of Mu Yu, Luo Shang, Xiang Nan, Chu Xiaqi, Xiao Ran, Ying Sha, and Dong Ji. Only by killing them could he be sure that the 9 immortals were on the third palace's side. Xiao Shui rubbed his chin and suddenly asked, if Bai Jie activated the Xian immortal tablet to gain control of the power of the heavenly eternity, why didn't he choose the 9 immortals from the start? The 9 immortals were on the third palace's side at the start. When the Xian immortal tablet was first released, Mu Yu and the others were very weak and couldn't compete for the top 9. The third palace could have easily controlled the top 9. Helian Kong stroked his beard and said, I think Bai Jie activated the Xian immortal tablet not to control the power of the heavenly eternity, but to find an excuse to start a war and collect soul power. However, when he realized that the Green Dragon Monster King wanted to use the power of the heavenly eternity to deal with him, he had no choice but to take it seriously and fight with the Green Dragon Monster King for control of the power of the heavenly eternity. However, it's clear that he doesn't have enough confidence in his subordinates, so he has to think of a way to delay the battle of the immortals. If I'm not wrong, he should be. He's looking for someone with eternal life. Mu Yu finished Helian Kong's words for him. There were 9 immortals in the third heaven. As long as Bai Jie controlled one of them, the Green Dragon Monster King wouldn't be able to activate the 9 heavens inverse formation. In this way, Bai Jie would still be the strongest in the cultivation world. Mu Yu guessed that Bai Jie's current plan was to send people to kill Mu Yu and the other unstable factors. On the other hand, he would send people to find the man of eternal life and capture him. In Bai Jie's view, even if he couldn't control the power of the heavenly eternity, he couldn't let the Green Dragon Monster King control it. So, I have to make sure nothing happens to him. Mu Yu already knew the identities of the 9 immortals in the third heaven. Firstly, there were the Green Dragon Monster King, the Luan Phoenix Monster King, the Sea Monster King, the Desert Eagle Monster King, the Heavenly Divine Monster King, Immortal Enai, Ran Hinshi, and Mu Yu. The 9th person was protected by Mu Yu and Immortal Enai. No one knew where the Heavenly Divine Monster King was sealed. The Green Dragon Monster King should be searching for it as soon as possible. Xiang Nan took the heart of Hai Dongqing and disappeared. Immortal Enai and Ran Hinshi didn't know who they were. In this way, it was still impossible to find the 9 immortals. Mu Yu, are you going to take him back to the Danding sect or the Formation sect? Xiao Shui asked curiously, biting his finger. Mu Yu pondered for a moment. Yes. Although that place is protected by some powerful formations, I always feel that something will happen to him. Because compared to the rest of us, he is the easiest target in the third palace. After I deal with the things at hand, I'll take him away. Helian Kong asked in confusion, What are you talking about? Who is he? Chapter 943. The cultivation world was in an uproar again. The top 20 of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard had changed again. 15th place, Chu Xiaqi. The cultivators once again began to discuss the pinnacle immortal, all of them trying to guess who this Chu Xiaqi was. There was a dirty little pond outside the gambling city. Taoist Chu Byuku and his 2 disciples were there, while Chu Xiaqi was crying pitifully. Master, I'm really the 15th Supreme Immortal. Why are you still drowning me in a pig cage? Chu Xiaqi was about to cry. Taoist Chu Byuku was furious. Brat, tell me, when did you become the 15th Supreme Immortal? Yesterday. Chu Xiaqi scowled miserably. At this moment, he was tied up. Taoist Chu Byuku had gotten a wire cage out of nowhere and locked him inside, preparing to throw him into the dirty pond. Yesterday? You still have the nerve to say that. I bet that the top 20 Supreme Immortals would change this month. But when you became the 15th Supreme Immortal yesterday, it was already the 1st of August. It was already another month. That means all the spirit stones I bet last month were wasted. Don't you think I should be drowned in a pig cage? Taoist Chu Byuku was so angry that his beard was sticking up. Chu Xiaoqi was dumbfounded. He had been looking for the 15th Supreme Immortal Yu Xuanfang for the past few days. He thought that he had finally killed this guy, so he happily ran back to his master to ask for credit. He never thought that he would be thrown into a pig cage by Taoist Chu Byuku after finding his master. Master, I was wrong. I was really wrong. You know how hard it is to find those bastards. I spent a few more days, but I had no choice. Master, please spare me. Chu Xiaoqi was about to cry. If the cultivation world knew that Chu Xiaoqi, the 15th Extreme Immortal, was currently being drowned in a pig cage for causing his master to lose a bet, they would definitely be shocked out of their wits. I don't care. You made me lose all the thousands of spiritual stones I won. I must vent my anger. Taoist Chu Byuku was so angry that he could not vent his anger. Junior sister, please help me. Chu Xiaoqi's eyes were brimming with tears. Senior brother, did you say that big brother Mu you really killed Yu Xuanfang with a single strike? Chu Xiaoqing sat on a rock beside the pond and asked curiously. Yes. Mu Yu's sword strikes down like a celestial being. Quickly help me beg master for mercy. Chu Xiaoqi shouted. Wow. Big brother Mu Yu is so handsome. Chu Xiaoqing's eyes lit up again, not caring about Chu Xiaoqi's life or death. Chu Xiaoqi even had thoughts of dying. But at this moment, Taoist Chu Byuku suddenly turned his head and looked at the forest beside the pond. He shouted, That sneaky brat, get your ass over here! A blue figure floated out of the woods and landed in front of Taoist Chu Byuku. He bowed and said, Greetings, senior. Xiaoqing. Brat, why are you looking for me? Taoist Chu Byuku asked casually. Xiaoqing glanced at Chu Xiaoqi in the pig cage and said, Senior still has matters to attend to. Why don't we talk after you're done? Xiaoqing, you bastard! Are you looking for death? How dare you hit me when I'm down? Chu Xiaoqi cursed. Xiaoqing smiled and shook his head. Brother Xiaoqi, how have you been? How have I been? Are you here to laugh at me? Just you wait, I'm going to fight you for 300 rounds. Chu Xiaoqi gnashed his teeth in anger. Xiaoran and Chu Xiaoqi naturally knew each other, so he did not hold back and continued to speak to Taoist Chu Byuku. Senior, my master asked me to invite you over for a chat. If there's anything, tell him to come find me himself. I don't have time. Can't you see that I'm busy guiding my disciples' cultivation? Taoist Chu Byuku snorted. Master, this cultivation method is inhumane. Chu Xiaoqi shouted. Xiaoqing smiled. Senior, the 3 palaces have delayed the Xian immortal battle. You should know what this means. My master said that if you don't go, you'll have to return the 712 spirit stones you lost to him. If you go, you won't have to pay it back. All right, let's go. My good disciple, let's go see that old bastard. Taoist Chu Byuku snapped his fingers, and the pig cage that trapped Chu Xiaoqi disappeared. He then strode off into the distance. Only then did Chu Xiaoqi step onto the water surface in a panic, landing beside Xiaoran. Hey little Xiao, it's all your fault. Who told you to come out and show your face? You made me follow you to fight for that damned extreme immortal ranking. Chu Xiaoqi gnashed his teeth. Brother Xiaoqi, that wasn't my intention. Plus, I saved your life. Xiaoqing smiled. Scram, I don't believe you. You were waiting for me to make a fool of myself before coming out. Chu Xiaoqi was furious. How could I miss seeing Brother Xiaoqi drowned in a pig cage? I'm just curious how Brother Xiaoqi usually cultivates. Xiaoqing didn't feel embarrassed at all. Bastard, just you wait. Oh right, the next time you're going to slaughter those people from the Threefold Palace, let me know in advance so that I can place my bet. Also, you have to lend me some spirit stones first. Chu Xiaoqi scolded Xiao Ran before he began to borrow money from Xiao Ran. How much do you want? Let me think. I borrowed 212 from you last time. I'll borrow 38 this time. Then doesn't that make 250? You can pay me back in the future. Do you want it? Yes. Great. Chu Xiaoqi shouted at Chu Xiaoqing, junior sister, stop being love-struck. It's time to go. Currently, Bai Jie and Azure Dragon Monster King had placed their focus on the heavenly eternity power. Bai Jie wanted to borrow the extreme immortal steel to control the heavenly eternity power, while Azure Dragon Monster King wanted to use the 9 immortals to control the heavenly eternity power. They both wanted to ruin each other's plans. However, the key figure in their plans was related to Mu Yu. Mu Yu could be considered a potential competitor of the 9 arcane immortals. He was also an immortal. As long as Mu Yu guaranteed that he wouldn't be captured by the 3 palaces, he would have a chance to defeat the 3 palaces in the future. No matter what the 3 palaces' plans were, Mu Yu had to raise his true strength first. After he settled the matters of the Pill Cauldron sect, he left. Should we go find the old faker first? Or should we go find Big Sister Tianran? Little Shuai asked. Now that Mu Yu had passed one heart tribulation, he still had 2 more to face. One was the village chief and the other was Tianran. As long as he passed these 2 heart tribulations, he would be able to become a tribulation-passing cultivator with his talent. Let's find Tianran first, Mu Yu said. Mu Yu knew the location of the Red Dust sect very well. When he used the 9 Heavens reincarnation seal to go back to the past, he had been there before. Plus, it wasn't far from the Pill Cauldron sect, so he knew where to go. Great! We can go see Big Sister bathing again. Little Shuai said happily. When they went back to the past, they either died or fell into the Red Dust sect's bathing pond. Little Shuai would still talk about this from time to time. Mu Yu knocked Little Shuai's head and said seriously, "Don't mess around, we're gentlemen. Is watching a girl bathing something a gentleman would do?" Little Shuai snorted. "What about what we did last time?" Mu Yu thought for a moment. That's called a chance encounter through time and space. It's a scholar who accidentally fell into the flower pond and couldn't help himself. Little Shuai laughed loudly. Hooligans aren't scary, what's scary is hooligans with culture. Low-key, low-key. Mu Yu flew towards the direction of the Red Dust sect. Chun'an City was just nearby. He thought about Little Chun Shi who he met in Chun'an City. Now that he had finished setting up the commander transfer array, he should use the Bluestone Jade Pendant to protect people like Little Chun Shi. The Japanese said that Chun'an City would be attacked by Yuman. I wonder what's the situation now? Little Shuai asked. I'm not sure. The sect master told me which cities Yuman appeared in recently. There was no bad news from Chun'an City. Mu Yu said. Chun'an City was still safe and sound, which meant that Yuman hadn't arrived yet. Mu Yu didn't plan to save the selfish people in this city, but he still had to save Little Chun Shi and the others. He found a cave in a mountain stream 100 miles away from Chun'an City. He widened the cave and set up a commander transfer array in the cave. This place would be their refuge. In order to ensure that mortals could leave this place, Mu Yu purposely opened up a safe passage and set up a formation along the way to prevent demon beasts from invading. What if someone finds this cave and destroys my brave and invincible commander transfer array? Little Shuai asked. Don't worry, I will set up some formations. Other than us, no one else can come in from the outside. You can leave, but you can't enter. Mu Yu explained as he set up the formation. After spending 2 hours, Mu Yu finally finished setting up the array formations all around. Just in case, he caught a wild chicken as an experiment subject. Every time, the experiment subject was Little Shuai. Little Shuai's skin was thick, so it was difficult to ensure the reliability of the experiment. Therefore, it was best to find a normal wild chicken as an experiment subject. As long as nothing happened to the wild chicken, it shouldn't be a problem to teleport people. Mu Yu tied the jade pendant to the wild chicken's leg and retreated a distance away. When the wild chicken saw that Mu Yu let it go, it quickly flapped its wings and prepared to escape. However, Mu Yu's spiritual power had already hit the jade pendant on the wild chicken's leg. A formation pattern flashed, and the wild chicken that was trying to escape was teleported away by the formation pattern on the jade pendant. "Hurry up, the wild chicken's safety is very important," Little Shuai said with a serious face. It was rare for him to be so concerned about the wild chicken's safety. The two of them quickly rushed into the cave to check on the wild chicken that was flying around in the cave. Thank goodness, the wild chicken didn't even lose a single feather. This means that my commander transfer formation is working. Mu Yu looked at the wild chicken that seemed to be in a panic. The stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. As long as the living thing didn't die, the commander transfer formation could teleport people. This wild chicken carries the hope of those people in Chun and City who have a conscience and a heart of gratitude to live on. Its success is related to the future and continuation of the human race in this war between human and the human race. If this war kills countless selfish people, then the people who are grateful will be the stars of the cultivation world in the future. The wild chicken is the second pioneer to explore the legendary brave and invincible commander transfer formation. It is the pride of the human race. It is so great yet so obscure. It is truly worthy of praise and tears. Little Shuai's expression was solemn as he looked at the wild chicken that had successfully passed the experiment. He waved his little fist and crowned the wild chicken with a glorious hat. Then, Little Shuai took out the pill firestone. Half an hour later, smoke rose in spirals from the kitchen chimneys. This drumstick is so fragrant. Chapter 944. Mu Yu and Little Shuai walked back into Chun'an City. Chun'an City was peaceful, but there were people guarding the city gate to prevent Yuman from sneaking in. There was a group of self-cultivators patrolling in the sky. If Yuman attacked, they would trigger the alarm in time. Chun'an City doesn't even have a city protection formation now. Can they stop Yuman? Little Shuai turned into human form and looked at the self-cultivators coming and going as he said disdainfully, "It's none of our business whether they can stop him or not." Mu Yu shrugged his shoulders indifferently. He was already at peace with all of this. He didn't want to be a random good person anymore. Everyone had to be responsible for their own decisions. Mu Yu could only help those who made the right choice. Back then, he left a formation pattern on Little Dawn's body. With this formation pattern, he could clearly sense Little Dawn's approximate location. They took many turns and came to a remote village courtyard in Chun'an City. They saw Little Dawn squatting in front of the door in a daze. She was holding a palm-sized statue of a true god. "Little Dawn, what are you thinking about?" Mu Yu walked to Little Dawn's side and asked. "Big brother, it's you?" Little Dawn recognized Mu Yu and stood up happily. "You seem to have something on your mind." Mu Yu sat beside Little Dawn and asked. Little Dawn sighed and said, "Big brother, are you an immortal master? You like true gods, don't you?" Mu Yu was stunned. "Why do you ask?" "Tomorrow, the fairies from the Red Dust sect will come to Chun'an City. They said they are here to recruit suitable children to become immortals. I also want to try, but Ernyo just told me that I definitely can't go because I still believe in true gods and immortal masters don't like true gods now." Little Dawn looked at the small statue of a true god in her hand with disappointment. Mu Yu rubbed her head and gently asked, "What do you think, Little Dawn?" "I want to become an immortal master and train my skills to fight Yu Meng, that bad guy. But I believe that the true gods are good people. If I do that, they won't let me in," Little Dawn said. Mu Yu patted Little Dawn's head and said, It's all right. I'll go with you tomorrow and give you some encouragement. Maybe the big sister from the Red Dust sect will let you in. Regardless of whether the Red Dust sect was being controlled or not, there was nothing to worry about for a child as young as Little Dawn. If Little Dawn wanted to join the Immortal sect, that would be great. Okay, thank you, big brother. Little Chun, she smiled happily. It was a pure and kind smile, like a warm flower blooming, making the whole world clear. Mu Yu really liked Little Chun Shi's smile. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning, Mu Yu said. Then I'll tell my parents about this right away. Little Dawn stood up and ran into the house. The runes on Mu Yu's fingertips surged and merged into Little Dawn's mind. Remember, this jade pendant can only be broken when your life is in danger. Protect this jade pendant well. Do not damage it and do not tell anyone about it. Little Dawn's pure eyes flashed with a hint of confusion, then she nodded. Mu Yu smiled and left. Why did you use the Divine Soul Array to control Little Dawn? Little Marshall asked. This jade pendant is a life-saving item. Little Chun, she is a child after all. I was worried that Little Chun, she wouldn't be able to keep this a secret. Some cowardly people might find out about it and steal it. So, I used a soul array to tamper with her memories, Mu Yu explained. The Divine Soul Array that he controlled was complete. It would not cause harm to people and could change a person's memory in an instant. Under his intentional help, Little Dawn would treasure this jade pendant. However, she did not know what this jade pendant meant. She only knew that this jade pendant could save her life. Then, should we go to Chun'an City and have some good food first? Little Marshall jumped out and turned into a little kid. He had just eaten a wild chicken in the forest, but it was not enough to fill his stomach. While we're at it, we can ask around about Tianran. It's really rare for people from the Red Dust sect to come here and take in disciples. Mu Yu thought about it. This could be considered an opportunity. It would be even better if he could follow the people from the Red Dust sect to look for Tianran. They walked around Chun'an City. Little Marshall's arms were stuffed with all kinds of food. Mu Yu also found out why the Red Dust sect came here to take in disciples. The Red Dust sect was very strict when it came to taking in disciples. They only took in female disciples once every 2 years. Usually, they would not take in disciples casually, and this year was not the year for them to take in disciples. However, recently, it was said that the Red Dust sect's Heavenly Lady had succeeded in her cultivation. She was blessed by the holy light. In addition, Yuman was rampant and wanted to cultivate elites for the human race. That was why they were recruiting girls who were 5 years old from various cities to be sent to the Red Dust sect to cultivate. They had already been to a few cities. This time, it was Chun'an City's turn. Heavenly Lady has succeeded in her cultivation. Holy light is blessed by the holy light. Why does it sound like brainwashing? Little Marshall said. The Heavenly Lady should be Tianran, right? Does that mean Tianran will come here too? Mu Yu was extremely surprised. She had come here to help little Chensi and her family, but by a stroke of luck, she had learned that Tianran was coming here tomorrow. If Tianran came to Chun'an City, he would not have to go to the trouble of going to the Red Dust sect. That's great. I want to hug Tianran, sis. Little Marshall raised his greasy little paws and said happily, "Wash your hands first." Mu Yu ruffled Little Marshall's hair in disdain. He found an inn and stayed there. The next day, the entire Chun'an City was in an uproar. This was because the Red Dust sect's Heavenly Lady would be coming to Chun'an City to accept disciples. She would be testing the bone structure of girls who were 5 years old and above. As one of the 8 sects, the Red Dust sect's members were all fairies. They were graceful and charming, making people admire them. As for the Red Dust sect's Heavenly Lady, she was the next successor of the sect master. Her status was extremely noble. It was impossible for her to be seen by anyone. This time, many self-cultivators came to Chun'an City because of her reputation. In the eyes of many male self-cultivators, if they could see the heavenly lady once, they would have no regrets in life. Early in the morning, the entire Chun'an City was bustling as if it was a celebration. The streets and roofs were filled with self-cultivators. They were pushing and shoving as they waited for the appearance of the red dust sect's heavenly lady. Muyu asked around and confirmed one thing. The red dust sect's heavenly lady's name was indeed Tianran. Tianran, I didn't expect you to come by yourself just as I was about to look for you. Muyu's heart was filled with anticipation. He had not seen Tianran for many years. He did not know how this innocent girl was doing now. Thinking about what happened to Tianran all these years, Muyu felt guilty towards her. He wanted to explain everything to Tianran and make it up to her as much as possible. Muyu mixed in with the crowd. He held little Chun-Shi's hand and landed on a roof. Little Marshall even gave little Chun-Shi a meat bun out of kindness. The roof was also filled with self-cultivators. At this moment, the self-cultivators were all discussing the red dust sect's heavenly lady. The red dust sect's heavenly lady has come to our Chun'an City. To be able to see the heavenly lady once is a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Yeah, the heavenly lady is the future successor of the red dust sect. I heard that she looks like a fairy from a painting. I really want to see her face. It's a pity that my son is a boy. Otherwise, I would have sent him to the red dust sect too. Every heavenly lady in the red dust sect is as beautiful as a fairy. Naturally, the disciples they recruit must also be good-looking. I don't think your son has a chance. If he could marry the red dust sect's heavenly lady, it would be a blessing for his ancestors. Come on. You want to marry the red dust sect's heavenly lady with your mung bean eyes and toad mouth? Stop dreaming. Many self-cultivators were joking with each other. Their eyes were filled with envy as they talked about the red dust sect's heavenly lady in their eyes. They were in awe of the red dust sect. Every woman who walked out of the red dust sect was a hot topic. Little Chun-Shi was eating the meat bun happily. However, after eating, she suddenly became nervous. What's wrong? Little Chun-Shi, is it not delicious? Do you want a drumstick? Little Marshall took out a greasy drumstick and asked. Little Chun-Shi shook her head. No, big brother Little Marshall. Just now, those immortal masters said that the red dust sect recruits good-looking disciples. Then, am I not good-looking enough? In fact, Little Marshall looked even younger than Little Chun-Shi. However, Little Marshall was coaxing Little Chun-Shi that he was already 10 years old and could be a big brother. Muyu squatted down and said with a smile, Little Chun-Shi, you are very good-looking. Don't lose confidence in yourself. Little Chun-Shi, you have a grateful heart. People who know how to be grateful are the most beautiful. Little Chun-Shi was still holding a small sculpture of a true god. She asked, then should I put this away first? What if the heavenly lady from the red dust sect sees it and doesn't like it and throws it away? You can't even buy a small sculpture of a true god nowadays. The small sculpture of a true god in Little Chun-Shi's hand stood with his hands behind his back. His sword was on his back and his green robes fluttered in the wind. He was handsome and carefree. Many children used to buy such a sculpture as a protective talisman. However, now that the Sanchong Palace had spread rumors and slandered Jian Ying and Chen Feng, the craftsmen who made the sculptures of true gods no longer dared to sell them. Many children, under the instigation of their parents, also smashed the sculptures that were originally very precious. Little Chun-Shi had been keeping the sculpture because her parents believed in true gods. Muyu shook his head. No need. You are who you are. You don't have to deliberately hide yourself. Just be yourself. Who knows, maybe they will give you extra points because of this small sculpture. Muyu thought of Tianran. Tianran was his master's daughter. If she saw this small sculpture, she would definitely be overjoyed. Little Chun-Shi was 7 years old this year. Her cultivation talent was considered good and she could cultivate. Back in the Moyen Mountains, Muyu only started cultivating when he was 12 years old because of the lack of spiritual energy. Now that he thought about it, he had wasted so many years. Okay. Thank you, big brother. Little Chun, she nodded. You're lying to a child again, Little Shuai muttered. Have you ever been lied to by me? Muyu glared at Little Shuai. I'm not a child. Little Shuai took a bite of his drumstick. Chapter 945. It was as if an earthquake had occurred in Chun'an City. Everyone exclaimed. The fairies of the Red Dust sect had arrived in Chun'an City. 7 fairies flew in from the city gate, leaving a string of light yellow shadows in the air. Flower petals sprinkled down bit by bit, dancing in the air. These 7 fairies stepped on the red dust golden lotus. Every step they took turned into a colorful light, rippling in the air. The scene was quite spectacular. Then, a fairy wearing a green veil turned into a green light and landed in the middle of the 7 fairies. She was tall and her hair fluttered in the wind. She was like an otherworldly fairy. Her face was covered with a veil, which was faintly discernible. However, it could not hide her elegant temperament. The aura on her body was steady and reserved. Her cultivation was at the 9th level of the unification stage. Muyu's heart suddenly jolted. It was as if a pure lotus had bloomed in his heart, causing him to fall in love with her. That familiar graceful figure melted in his eyes. All kinds of beautiful memories emerged in his mind. That brother Muyu was pure and moving. It had opened Muyu's heart. However, it had been many years since they parted. It's really you, Tianran. The girl who had haunted his dreams appeared here at this moment. He suddenly wanted to go forward and hug this girl, telling her that he was here now. However, Muyu resisted. His identity had been pushed to the opposite side of the cultivation world. All the cultivators would crusade against him. He did not want to get into trouble for no reason. Big brother, what's wrong with you? Little Chun, she curiously looked at Muyu, who was in a daze, and asked. Nothing, I just remembered the past. Muyu shook his head. He could not show himself now. With his identity, he would bring a lot of trouble to Tianran. However, this scene was so familiar. In the past, Muyu was condemned by the cultivation world because of the White Ape Demon King. Under such circumstances, Tianran said in front of so many people that she liked her brother Muyu. She did not care about everyone's opinion. That girl was pure and brave, making Muyu happy. Now that they met again, he was still the public enemy of the cultivation world. He stood on the opposite side of all the cultivators. Did that girl still remember him? Ignore him. Big brother's love is one-sided. Little Shuai kindly gave Little Chun a meat bun. Tianran was surrounded by 7 women like stars surrounding the moon. There was also a proud woman in white standing behind Tianran. This woman looked elegant and graceful. She looked to be in her early 30s, but her eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life. She was obviously quite old. The aura of the woman in white was suppressed to a very low level. Ordinary people would think that she was only in the fusion stage. However, Muyu could tell that the woman in white was in the tribulation stage. The tribulation stage elder of the Red Dust sect should have known. Muyu pondered. Since Tianran was the next successor of the Red Dust sect, her safety was the first priority. Although they believed that there was no blind prodigal in the cultivation world who dared to cause trouble, the Red Dust sect would never let anything happen to Tianran. The Red Dust sect entered the city with great fanfare and momentum. All the cultivators were amazed. As soon as they arrived, they went to the center of Chun'an City. The center of the city had been specially opened up for the Red Dust sect to recruit disciples. At this time, it was already crowded. Many people were even floating in the air and did not come down. However, The aura of the woman in white behind Tian Ran fluctuated. All the cultivators floating in the air felt a huge pressure on their bodies. They could not help but fall to the ground. After the woman in white did this, no one dared to fly in the air within 100 meters. Everyone could only stand on the ground. However, no cultivator dared to complain. The Red Dust sect was one of the 8 sects. No matter what they did, no one dared to say anything. Who is this woman in white? Her cultivation is so strong. I heard that she is Elder Yen Qingyun of the Red Dust sect. Although she looks like she is in her 30s, I heard that she is almost 100 years old. Oh my God! She is over 100 years old and still so beautiful. The Red Dust sect's techniques are really powerful. You don't say. The Red Dust sect doesn't have anyone who looks like an old woman. The cultivators nearby were already discussing the identity of the woman who cleared the area. Everyone was whispering and did not dare to be heard loudly. So domineering! Mu Yu snorted. Then, he brought Little Chun Shi back to her parents' side. Little Chun Shi's parents were an honest mortal couple. They looked very nervous. When they saw Mu Yu bringing Little Chun Shi back, they quickly went up to him. Immortal Master, do you think our Chun Shi will be chosen? Little Chun Shi's mother asked. Don't worry. It won't be a problem. Mu Yu comforted her. That's good. That's good. Little Chun Shi's father patted Little Chun Shi's head and smiled cautiously. The city lord of Chun and City was already there to maintain order. He also cleared a space in front of the crowd. The people of the Red Dust sect did not need to do anything personally. They only needed to give an order and countless cultivators would be willing to do anything for them. The woman in white from the Red Dust sect and Tian Ran were both sitting on chairs with phoenixes carved on them. A huge lotus flower bloomed about 10 meters above them. It covered the scorching sun and left a faint shade. Mu Yu kept looking at Tian Ran. He had a lot of thoughts in his mind. He did not know how to meet Tian Ran alone. Now that Elder Yen Qingyun was present, it would be difficult for Mu Yu to quietly take Tian Ran away in front of everyone. At this time, many parents had already brought their little daughters to the empty space. However, only little girls between the age of 5 and 10 were allowed to enter. Their parents were barred from entering. Little Chun Shi, do your best. Little Handsome waved his greasy hand kindly. A wave of spirit energy swept over and cleaned the grease on Little Chun Shi's body. Yes, Brother Handsome, I will definitely join the Red Dust sect. Little Chun Shi nodded. Join the Red Dust sect? Don't even think about it. You're just a poor little girl who's hugging a little sculpture of Sword Shadow Qinfeng. You're really looking for death. Don't you know that Sword Shadow Qinfeng is in cahoots with Yaman? Is he a traitor to the human race? An arrogant middle-aged man turned around and looked at the little sculpture in Little Chun Shi's hands. He said with disgust, "A true god is not a traitor." Little Chun Shi angrily retorted. A girl who looked to be 8 or 9 years old next to the middle-aged man also said arrogantly, "Nowadays, anyone who is related to a true god has to be arrested and interrogated. If you want to join the Red Dust sect, you'd better smash that ridiculous thing in your hands." I won't smash a true god's sculpture. A true god is a good person. You can't buy a true god's sculpture anymore. Little Chun Shi tightly hugged the palm-sized sculpture of a true god. A good person? If a true god was a good person, then we wouldn't have to worry all the time. The Yu Meng Devil clan was released by the true god. No one would want someone like you. The rude and unreasonable Tsundra woman said arrogantly. You're ugly, annoying, and arrogant. I think no one will want you in the future. Little Handsome said with disdain as he chewed on a bun. You little bastard, who are you calling ugly? The arrogant girl suddenly became anxious. I'm talking about you. What's wrong? Little Handsome said with disdain. You little brat, do you want to die? How dare you talk to my daughter like that? The middle-aged man next to the arrogant girl suddenly shouted angrily. He released his Jindan period cultivation, trying to intimidate Little Handsome. However, Little Handsome grinned and spat out a leftover chicken bone into the middle-aged man's mouth. The middle-aged man was shocked. The speed of the bone was too fast for him to block. Just now, he had scolded Little Handsome and opened his mouth, so the bone was stuck in his throat, making him choke. The middle-aged man wanted to use his Jindan period spiritual power to shatter the bone, but the bone seemed to have become incomparably hard. With his cultivation, he could not shatter it. "Father, what's wrong with you?" The arrogant girl suddenly became anxious. She quickly patted the middle-aged man's back, trying to get the bone out. Unfortunately, Little Handsome's bone was not that easy to connect. The surrounding people looked at the middle-aged man's embarrassed appearance and secretly laughed. They were all laughing at how useless this man was and how he could be stuck by a bone. To think that he was a gold core stage cultivator. Little Handsome happily made a face at Little Chen-shi, ignoring the other people's gazes. Little Chen-shi laughed secretly and quickly ran towards the open space. There were about 2,000 girls in the entire Chun city who met the requirement. They were all young and immature. They all stood in the open space in awe and fear. Their faces were full of expectation and fear that they were not qualified. Now we will begin the Bone Foundation test for the Red Dust Sect's disciples. Those who meet the requirements will be sent to the Red Dust Sect for the next test. The city master was a spirit-severing stage cultivator. He announced loudly to everyone. Everyone craned their necks to look around. They wanted to know what kind of girl was qualified to become a fairy of the Red Dust Sect. Tian Ran slowly walked out. Her light veil fluttered in the wind, setting off her pure temperament. Her every movement affected the hearts of all the cultivators. Wherever her gaze went, everyone was stunned. Those who were swept by her gaze hoped that this clear gaze would stay on them for a moment longer. Tian Ran's gaze swept past Muyu. Suddenly, her gaze paused for a moment. Her beautiful brows slightly furrowed, as if she felt a familiar aura. However, in her eyes, there was only an unfamiliar young man, ordinary and unremarkable. Muyu used an illusion array to cover his face. Tian Ran only took a moment to shift her gaze away from Muyu. However, the woman in white not far behind her seemed to have noticed something. Suddenly, she locked an almost undetectable aura on Muyu. This old woman has such a keen sense of smell. Muyu did not reveal any abnormalities. He pretended that he did not notice this aura. This was because this aura was mixed with a trace of hostility. It seemed that she wanted to see something from Muyu. Obviously, this Tian Ran had noticed Tian Ran's abnormality. Although Tian Ran's gaze only took a moment to shift away from Muyu, how could she ignore it? Chapter 946. That old woman seems to have her eyes on you, Little Handsome whispered. It doesn't matter, Muyu said indifferently. But why did Tianran take another look at you just now? She didn't even look at me. I'm so sad. Little Handsome said dejectedly. You're so short. It would be strange if she saw you. Muyu casually said. He quickly regretted saying this because Little Handsome felt that his words were reasonable. He climbed onto his back and rode on Muyu's neck, swinging his little feet on Muyu's chest. Don't drip oil on my head, Muyu helplessly said. He was already used to Little Handsome. No, I know I'm going to let you meet Big Sister Tian Ran handsomely. Little Handsome opened his mouth and spat out meat, but it was swept away by a rune. Tian Ran just walked around these girls. All the girls looked at Tian Ran in reverence. They didn't understand how this goddess was going to choose people. Tian Ran slowly walked to the center of everyone, then stopped. Her hands began to form seals, and a red lotus bloomed in her hand, emitting an incomparably pure light. Then, the lotus suddenly scattered, turning into petals that shone on everyone's body like specks of starlight. The petals were sparkling and translucent, emitting a wave of spirit energy that drilled into the bodies of every girl. All the children opened their eyes wide. It was as if a warm current was flowing through their bodies, making them feel incomparably comfortable. Then, a little girl's body suddenly lit up with a red light, as if something was about to come out of her body. That little girl stretched out her hand in surprise. Her fingers also emitted a brilliance, illuminating her little face. However, among the more than 2,000 girls, only 19 of them lit up with an incomparably moving brilliance. Little Chun, she was also one of them. The children who have a reaction to the red dust lotus art can stay. The others can leave. Yan Qinyan stood up and said to everyone. As soon as she said this, the girls who were emitting red light became very excited. Being able to stay meant that they had the qualifications to become members of the red dust sect. This was a great fortune for them. As for the girls who were not chosen, they were very disappointed. Even their parents sighed. Their daughters were not lucky enough to be chosen by the fairies of the red dust sect. It was obvious that their aptitude did not meet the requirement. There were over 2,000 girls, but only 19 of them met the requirement. It was obvious how strict the red dust sect was in accepting disciples. Little Dawn waved excitedly at Little Handsome in the crowd. She had been worried that she would not be chosen, but now that she found out that she was one of the 19, she was happy. However, as soon as she waved her hand, the rude girl who had looked down on Little Dawn was immediately displeased. She had no reaction to the red dust lotus technique, but Little Dawn, who she had mocked, had been successfully chosen. She pointed at Little Dawn and reported loudly, "Big Sister Fairy, she is holding the statue of Sword Shadow Chinfeng in her hand. Even now, she still believes that the human race is a traitor. She is not worthy to be the fairy of the red dust sect." The rude girl's voice was very shrill, and the onlookers were all self-cultivators. Suddenly, everyone quieted down and stared at the statue in Little Dawn's hand. Little Dawn was very flustered to be stared at by so many people. She clutched the statue tightly, not knowing what to do. The rude girl saw that she had successfully attracted everyone's attention and said proudly, "Sword Shadow Chinfeng colluded with Yuman. The world has long since forsaken them. But now, she is still holding the statue of Sword Shadow Chinfeng and treating him like a hero. Such a person is not worthy to be a disciple of the red dust sect." The rude girl was jealous that she did not have the qualifications to be chosen. She did not want Little Dawn to be chosen. Really? This little girl is still holding the statue of Sword Shadow Chinfeng. Didn't we destroy all the statues of Sword Shadow Chinfeng during the Clear City operation? Does this little girl want to die? She's still holding the statue of Sword Shadow Chinfeng. Do you want to go against everyone? Those parents whose daughters had not been chosen immediately began to question Little Dawn loudly. Many self-cultivators also cast unfriendly gazes on Little Dawn. Jian Ying Chinfeng was now despised by everyone. No one dared to have anything to do with Jian Ying Chinfeng. No, it's not like that. The true God is a good person. Little Dawn was being pointed at by everyone. She whispered in panic. Good person? Sword Shadow Chinfeng is not a true god. If he colluded with Yuman and is considered a good person, then am I not a saint? I think this little girl is also AB*TCH. Hurry up and beat her to death. Yes, the Red Dust Sect is a holy land. How can they allow such AB*TCH to enter? No matter how soft Little Dawn's voice was, many self-cultivators heard it. They immediately pointed at Little Dawn and scolded her. Little Dawn listened to the scolding around her. She was so scared that her face turned pale. Tears welled up in her eyes. Mu Yu's heart was filled with killing intent. Not only were these people scolding his master, but they were also scolding a 5-year-old girl. A pitiful person must have a hateful side. There was no need for people like this to continue living. His gaze swept across the people who had opened their mouth. His cold, killing intent had already locked onto these people. Tian Ran slowly walked to Little Dawn's side. Her footsteps were very light. Everyone tactfully looked at this heavenly lady and stopped scolding. They wanted to know how this heavenly lady would treat Little Dawn. Muyu also wanted to know because the person who was scolding these people was Tian Ran's father. Sister Tian Ran, hurry up and show your power to destroy these bastards who are gossiping. Little Handsome said in a huff. Tian Ran squatted down and looked at Little Dawn. She asked softly, "Why are you holding the statue of Jian Yingchen-feng?" Little Dawn trembled and said, I think the true God is a good person." "You think Jian Yingchen-feng is a good person?" Tian Ran slowly stood up and said, "You are not suitable to be a disciple of the Red Dust sect. Go back." Muyu was stunned when he heard this. How could this be? How could Tian Ran say something like this? Muyu thought that Tian Ran would scold the surrounding self-cultivators and then stand up to protect Little Dawn. However, Tian Ran did not do that. Instead, she directly took away Little Dawn's opportunity to join the Red Dust sect. The drumstick in Little Handsome's hand fell to the ground. Muyu, Sister Tian Ran didn't lose her memory, did she? A nameless anger surged from Muyu's heart. He could not understand why Tian Ran would do something like this. When the rude girl heard Tian Ran's words, she said proudly, "Hey, you cheap girl. Did you hear that? You are not fit to be a fairy of the Red Dust sect." All the self-cultivators nodded and said, "Look, this cheap girl is asking for trouble. She just had to hold on to Jian Yingchen-feng's statue. She deserves to be a disciple of the Red Dust sect." That's right. She wasted a chance to become a fairy of the Red Dust sect. This girl trusts Jian Yingchen-feng. Her heart is not right. She should be beaten to death. Little Dawn's face turned pale. Being criticized by so many people, how could a small child like her endure such vicious abuse? She could not hold it in any longer and wanted to run towards her parent. However, the rude girl suddenly stretched out her leg and tripped Little Dawn. "No!" Little Dawn shouted. The statue of the true God slipped out of her hand and fell to the ground. The statue was made of ceramic. It would definitely break into pieces when it fell to the ground. Little Dawn's eyes were filled with pain. She stretched out her hand with all her might, wanting to grab the statue back. However, her little hand was too short and could not hold on to the statue. However, a hand caught the statue. A mellow spiritual energy wrapped around Little Dawn, preventing her from falling to the ground. Muyu appeared in front of everyone and hugged Little Dawn. "Who is this guy? How dare he stand out at a time like this? Does he have a death wish? He's with this cheap girl. He's probably also a supporter of Jian Yingchen-feng. Let's take care of them together." That's right. Those who support Jian Yingchen-feng are not good people. They must be Yuman's accomplices. They should be captured. That's right. Celestial Maiden of the Red Dust sect, hurry up and capture him with your immortal might. Who does he think he is? How dare he show off at a time like this? Does he want to stand out in front of the fairy? Does he have a death wish? Just you wait. This guy likes to be in the limelight. He's dead meat. Seeing Muyu suddenly appear in front of Little Dawn, all the self-cultivators began to curse loudly. They thought of Muyu as someone who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth and loved to show off. However, Muyu ignored all of this. He only whispered to Little Dawn, "Don't be afraid. Big Brother is here. No one can bully you." When Little Dawn saw that it was Muyu, she suddenly burst into tears. Big Brother, true gods are good people, not bad people. But they all scold me and don't believe me. Why did they call me a cheap girl? I'm usually very obedient. I help my parents. I'm not a cheap girl. Dawn is the most obedient child I've ever seen. They scold you because Dawn did the most correct and bravest thing in the world. However, they did not have the courage to do it. So, they were jealous of Dawn. That's why they scolded you. Muyu smiled. Big brother, is that so? Do you really believe me? Little Dawn leaned on Muyu's shoulder and cried sadly. Muyu gently patted Little Chin Shi's back and said softly, Good Chin Shi. Everyone doesn't believe you, but Big Brother does. Muyu handed the statue of his master to Little Dawn. Promise Big Brother that you will protect this, okay? This might just be a statue, but to Muyu, it was like a belief that carried the most beautiful trust in the world. Trust was heavy and was worth protecting with one's life. Little Dawn would protect this statue, and Muyu would protect Little Dawn. Little Dawn sobbed as she took the statue of True God. She hugged Muyu's neck. Big brother, I will protect True God. Okay, Little Dawn, let's make a promise, okay? Big brother, what promise? Muyu reached out and wiped away Little Dawn's tears. You protect True God and I'll protect you. Muyu smiled. His smile was very bright, without any impurities. In front of Little Dawn, he was an easygoing big brother. Okay. Little Dawn nodded and gripped the statue of the True God tightly. Muyu raised his head and looked at Tianran. Tianran also looked at him silently. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.